Hey guys, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Penguin Live. This is a really exciting day. We have one of the world's absolute best lecturers here tonight. There's probably only about 3 people in this category. He gets invited all over the world, travels, and teaches magicians how to do amazingly fooling tricks and enhance what they're already doing. His take on classics of magic alone would be many lectures. He's got absolutely unlimited material, so tonight he's here to share some of his favorite tricks. A couple of facts that you may not know that are awesome is that Josh was recently named the Society of American Magicians Magician of the Year, which is a great honor. And then also, even if you're the same age as him, he's actually published material before you were born. I don't know how that works, but he's been doing this for longer than anybody proportional to his age, than anyone I know. He published his first book, I think, when he was 16. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah.
So with no further ado, I'm going to get off here. Mr. Joshua Jay.
Thank you. All right. Hello to everybody, and welcome out there in cyberspace. I'm really excited about this. This is rare for me, because when we go anywhere in the world to lecture, you are constantly juggling 2 things. You're juggling what I want to do, what I want to show, what I want to share with people, and you're juggling what you have to sort of cover because of a lot of other factors. One of those would be most magicians aren't very skillful. They're just new at it, so you want to include like a lot of easy stuff. You have to cover your way financially, so you have to do a certain amount of things that you sell. You have to stay in a certain amount of time, so you can't do all the things that you want to do. We don't have any of those restrictions tonight. So I'm going to do exactly the lecture I want to do. And you're going to sit here and watch it. No, I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be mostly cards, because that's what I'm most passionate about. But if there are questions or people want to go in a different direction, we can certainly jazz on other things. I'll ask the studio audience here to ask me any questions you want. You guys at home are going to ask questions through a jar. And the only other thing I can say is this. When a friend saw this new sort of lecture, which I'm going to cover that plus more tonight, he said to me, you know, man, you got a lot of gaff stuff in your lecture these days. And I thought about it like trick for trick, and I thought, you know, you're right. But I'm okay with that, because here's the promise I'll make you. Every single one of these tricks starts and ends clean. In other words, I'm going to show you how to get into it, and at the end, everything left on the table or in your hands is examinable. So to me, that's a win. To me, even if it's gaff during the thing, if you end clean, that's okay. And secondly, it just shows where my work is headed, which is this. In the early days, I think I would have worked really hard to make sure something was just totally pure and ungaffed. But now, really, my only concern is strength of effect. If the strongest way from point A to point B is with a gaff, we will use a gaff. If it's with a stack, we'll use a stack. So I'm sort of unapologetic about that. I know some people like to just do impromptu things and rock those things out without any setup. We'll cover a few of those, but be prepared, because there are some arts and crafts coming up. And now you're all thoroughly bored. Can we start? All right. Yeah. Here we go. Any fans in the studio audience of Alfred Hitchcock? I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock guy. Couple? Yeah? I love Hitchcock movies, because Hitchcock was a master of both suspense and surprise. And if you think about it, Those are exactly the two things that make for great magic, suspense and surprise. So I'm going to start off our online lecture the way every great Hitchcock movie starts, with an action. An action that's neither understood nor explained. You don't know why I tore this card up. You don't know what this card is. But in 3 short minutes, you're going to know exactly what this card is and why I did this. Hitchcock even had a term for this. He called this the MacGuffin. This is the thing everybody in the story is moving toward. They just don't know why. I'll set this here. It's our big surprise, and I won't touch it again. Now, if this is surprise, we need suspense. So for suspense, let's get 1, 2, 3, 4 of you guys to play actors. Give them a little round of applause, some encouragement as you come up. Make a little row right here. What's your name?
Ben.
Ben, nice to meet you. Kind of make a little row. What's up?
Brian.
Brian. All right, Ben, say stop.
Stop.
This will be your card.
Okay.
And you can have one. You get one, and you get one. Show your cards around. Remember them yourselves. Great. And now, in this effect, I don't put the card where I want it to go in the deck. You put it exactly where you want it to go. So if you guys can all come around to the front and put your cards back in the deck, anywhere you want them to go, that's good. And then please remain up here. You guys aren't done yet? Beautiful. That's great. So think about it this way. Now we have suspense and surprise. We have suspense because you put your cards in the deck. You know what they are and you know where they are, and I don't. And we've got surprise. What role do those pieces play? What are they for? So Ben, let's start with suspense. We'll begin with you. What was the name of the card you take and put in the deck?
5 of spades.
5 of spades. Your 5 of spades turns over exactly where you put it. What about you, Brian?
7 of clubs.
7 of clubs. And you?
9 of diamonds.
9 of diamonds. And finally?
Jack of diamonds.
Jack of diamonds. Pretty strange. Now that explains suspense, but it doesn't explain surprise. These pieces have been here all along. I tore up a card in the beginning, the MacGuffin. I haven't touched it since then. Would you take a piece, but don't look at it? Brian, take a piece, don't look. Don't look. Again, what was the name of your card, Ben?
5 of spades.
Show it to him. Your 5 of spades. And Brian?
9 of clubs.
I think it was the 7 of clubs. Having a good time, Brian. I'm glad to hear it.
9 of diamonds.
9 of diamonds. There it is. And finally,
Jack of diamonds.
Jack of diamonds. Thank you, guys. There it is. Dropped a piece, I think. But of course, the best part of any Hitchcock film is the surprise ending. That part you never saw coming, but when you saw it, all the pieces fit together. This is my surprise ending. Please hold those up. Make sure that that card fits exactly the piece you took out before you even took it out. Give my actors a round of applause. All right. Thanks, guys. Okay. So, here's the deal. I don't want to give you guys in a lecture twists on classics you already do. We all have material. We all have Card to Wallet, Ambitious Card, Matrix, and there are so many new versions coming out, and some are better than others, and they all have drawbacks. But the thing is, we all have versions of them. I'd rather spend our time tonight talking about things that don't even resemble anything already in your repertoire so that you can hopefully add some things to your set that don't look like other things. So I'm really pleased to share this. This is my favorite new routine I've come up with in recent couple of years. It is not in print at all. It is in my one-man show. I don't typically explain it anywhere. People have asked where it's going to be released. I haven't decided yet. I have strong feelings about that kind of thing. We can talk about it. But I've decided to share it with you guys tonight. You should know this deck is not switched, and it is now completely normal. I will do the very next 4 or 5 effects with this deck, which is totally normal now. There is a gaff involved, but that gaff is gone now. It's out of play, and it took with it the pieces that I switched out. So, to me, this effect is interesting because it melds together method and presentation and effect. There isn't just some new ground in one area or the other. All 3 kind of fit together and have to work. So it is inspired by a film. And we're here in Columbus, Ohio, where I went to school at Ohio State, and I took lots of film classes because I can't think of anything cooler than watching movies for a grade. But and I took a Hitchcock class, and one called Neo-Noir, or Noir and the Western, which, if it's still around, you guys should take that class. It's a great class. But in it, we learned a lot about Hitchcock. He became the subject of this trick, but he didn't inspire it. This trick was inspired by a newer movie, which maybe you've seen at home. Have you guys seen the film The Usual Suspects? Yeah? It's an amazing movie, right? So spoiler alert at home. Cover your headphones if you don't want to hear how it ends. But I'm watching that movie one night and just practicing card stuff. And the main character, whose name is? Kaiser Sose. Everybody here knows. Kaiser Sose is this main character. They talk about him in mythic terms the whole movie, but he doesn't exist. He's part of this guy's Italian accent and that guy's limp and this guy's brand of coffee. He's an amalgamation of all these parts rolled into one. And I'm sitting here jamming out thinking, you know, that would be a good card trick. And then this was born, this idea that you tear up a playing card and the pieces become part of cards that haven't even been picked yet. Is pretty whimsical. And to my knowledge, it's a totally new plot, so to speak. So, for our first effect of the evening, we're not going to use really any difficult sleight of hand. We're going to do 2 switches. A switch of the pieces and a switch of the cards. For the switch of the pieces, we'll use a gaff, which I'll tell you about. And for the switch of the cards, we'll use a subtlety that sort of goes by everybody. So, you take 4 force cards, any force cards you want to use, and you tear the corners off, and you save the corners. And guys, here's what's cool. The switch of the pieces begins before the trick does. These pieces, which I want to switch in, begin right here on the table, in order that I want to reveal them in, under the card box. So if you're walking up to do the trick, you take the cards out of the box and you set the box down with the pieces loaded underneath. Okay, I opened the show with it, so I had these here all along. The box is the gaff, because inside this box I have glued a very small but powerful magnet. Then, on an indifferent card, doesn't matter what it is because it'll never be seen, I have affixed another magnet. So you're going to see 2 or 3 tricks tonight that start in chaos and end in order. I love coming out and tearing up a card and sort of teasing them that you don't know why I'm doing this or what this card is, but you will in 3 short minutes. So I tear up the card, putting the piece with the magnet lowermost. And I make a promise which I keep. I say, I'm going to set these pieces here and I won't touch them again. And you won't. So here's the setup on the deck. We'll come back to that in a second. You've got the 4 cards missing the corners, which begin on top of the deck with 1 cover card on top so they don't flash, right? And that's a pretty easy situation to manage. If it's your opening effect like it was for me, you can do this. Makes it a little prettier, which is to put 1 or so indifferent cards in between those face-up cards. And then the only other thing that you need to do is take 4 indifferent cards, or I'm sorry, not indifferent cards, but the force cards that match, but these will have the corners not missing from them, and those go on top. All right? All right? We're ringing? We're good? There's jingling in the set. Okay, so here you go. We've got 5, 7, 9, Jack, whatever it would be here. And then you've got the face-up cards missing the corners. So, you come out, and you tear the card up, you put it there. Now you force these 4 cards any way you like. You get 4 people up and you force them. When you spread this deck, you don't spread far enough over to reveal the face-up cards, but you're going to use physical and mental misdirection here. So you got these 4 people over here, and you say to them something that's really fair that most magic tricks don't allow you to do. You say, you put the card in the deck anywhere you want it to go. Most magic tricks don't have that freedom. So you have the physical and mental misdirection of 4 people walking, blocking the view of the table, putting the cards in the deck. And as they do that, you're going to do something that you all have done 1,000 times before. You're going to tidy up your workstation. You're going to take that box of cards, which doesn't have to be there anymore, and put it away. If you had a jacket on, you'd put it in your jacket pocket, throw it in your briefcase, whatever. The switch happens in a split second, and I can only do it the once here, set up for it. So if we can get a zoom on this area, all that happens is I'm going to pick up this box. I won't look down. I don't need to look down. It'll happen automatically. If I pick up this box, as I move it toward my case, it'll hover over the pieces with the magnet, pick them up, and at the exact same moment, the other pieces come into view, that the other pieces go out of view. So it's as you're talking, they're putting the cards in the deck, I pick this up and do that. And it's done. It's done. Everything is now set. The pieces are switched in. The gimmick is brought out of play. It took the pieces with it, and you have a rare situation. You have 12 moments to reveal. Most card tricks have 1 moment. They switch, or it changes. This one has 12. So here's what you do. As you recap the story, you give the deck a little shuffle. You give it just a little pharaoh weave like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just distributing those face-up cards throughout the deck so that they look a little better when they come out. You now have 12 moments. Here's the first one. 5, 7, the 9, the jack. Those are the first 4. Now, under cover of those cards turning over, which is an incredible effect. I mean, typically, when you cause the 4 cards they pick to turn face up in the deck, they react. In Columbus, Ohio, nothing. No, but when you do this, what you don't notice, because you're revealing these cards face up, is you're switching them in as you do. These aren't the cards they held. These are the cards missing the corners. So you're way ahead. Now you call attention to this eerie, weird ending on the table where the very pieces that you tore up a moment ago have become part of the 4 cards they selected. And you get these 4 pieces like this. And then, the part hopefully nobody sees coming, that MacGuffin ending that Hitchcock was so famous for, you show that indeed the very pieces of the cards themselves fit perfectly, and they can hold them up and sort of show them. And that leaves you with a deck that you can use for every other trick. And that's a little one that I call Hitchcock. Thanks. So should we open it up to some questions on this one before we move on? First, anybody in the studio? Hey, yes.
Did you start with a card and a magnet, or a card and then a separate piece with a magnet? Were there 5 pieces or 4 pieces?
4 pieces. Basically, an indifferent card in the deck has a magnet affixed to one corner with some tape.
I don't know if you loaded that in when you were tearing it out.
No. That's there from the beginning, so you can start clean. It's all in the deck. You don't have to palm anything in or out. I used to, as this trick evolved, I used to think it was important for me to have that face up, that stack on top of the deck, palmed out so that they could shuffle at the beginning. And then I'd load a honking, 8 cards into the deck as I gestured. Just totally unnecessary. So, yeah.
What magnets do you use, neodymium?
Yeah, neodymium magnets. They make very thin, flat magnets that you can use. And that's what I did. Yeah. You had a question there?
That was it.
That was it. Anything else? We good to go? Yes, sir.
When did you put the new pieces on the table?
In this case, because I used it as an opener, and I do use it as an opener often, I had it on the table to begin with, the box there. If not, when you walk up, you take the cards out of the box, And as you set it down, you just set it down with the pieces underneath. That's how I typically do it. Yeah. And I mean, I hope you like the trick, but to really see the trick the way it sings, you have to see my show. In my one-man show, videos intro everything I do. And so one piece ends, this is like the third piece in my show. A piece ends in a blackout, and when the monitors come back on, they come back on to the shower scene in Psycho, the really famous, creepy scene with the blood in the drain, and this really tripped out Portishead music over top of it, and nobody knows why they're seeing this highlight reel of Hitchcock. And then when the lights fade up, I'm there, stage is changed, and I say, Hitchcock would have made a great magician. And then I go into the presentation you saw. And while I'm doing it, Hitchcock's profile is on all the monitors, and the music from Psycho, or I'm sorry, from Psycho. Do, 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 do. That creepy music is there. So instead of like a card trick, it feels like something kind of dark and trippy the whole time they're seeing it. So kind of amp up the heartstrings on it. Any other questions at all? Okay. I want to change gears for a moment and try a little bit of influencing on a subliminal level. You said your name was Ben. That's what I thought. Ben, if I wanted to influence you to take a time that I wanted you to take, I might make my watch like 12:20, or for perhaps the time I was born, which was 3:35 or so. But I don't want to do that. I want to get a time that feels random, not a time that you think of, but a time that feels random to you. So it's a little bit loud in here with all the machinery, but can you hear up close? Can you hear the click?
Yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah.
That's me pulling that pin out.
All right.
I'm going to pull that pin out. I'm going to look away so you don't think I'm somehow following you doing something. And I want you to hold out two fingers like this and just twist backwards and forwards until you want to stop. And hopefully you can get a time that you're focused on. You happy there?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because in our 9-to-5 jobs, we're inundated with subliminal influence, and we just don't always pick up on it. I'm going to lock that time in and ask you to remember it, please. Can you see?
Yeah.
Can you help? Great. Hold out your hand flat like this, and your other hand goes on top. Now comes the interesting part. This is the part where I look into your eyes and read your mind. But of course, we know that's impossible. See, I've been influencing you since the show started. You were up on stage with me during Hitchcock. You picked a card, a 5. There was another card picked after that, a 9. I just told you a minute ago I used a turn of phrase. It seemed pretty natural. I said our 9-to-5 jobs. 9 and 5. These are keep being influenced on you. I just a moment ago, if you replay the tape, I said I wanted you to concentrate. Flashing you the number 9. Flashing you the 5. You're not buying any of this, are you? I believe that the time you thought of is 9:05. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was correct.
I thought so. But of course, nobody's buying any. Just keep that in your hand. Nobody's buying any of this. You want proof. You want to see it. This ain't some Darren Brown crap. You want to see it. And I'll prove to you that it is indeed a case of subliminal reinforcement. You couldn't have seen the time 9:05 because this watch has no hands at all. See that? All right. Take a look at that. Pass that around. Thank you, guys. All right. So Liam Montier is a friend of mine and a friend of my business partner, Andy Gladwin's. And he had a really great idea, and that was the genesis for this. I've simply dressed it up and changed how it's presented. This is an effect called Timeless. And again, you'll see this several times in this talk tonight. We're going to take a classic idea and give it just a little wrinkle, a new twist that sometimes can really maximize the whole idea. So it's based on something very old, which is a force of a watch using the pin. But to do this effect, I'll show you how to make it up. And what you do is you take any old watch or a watch you're not using anymore, and you take it to a jeweler. And you go into the shop and you say, hi. This is going to sound strange, but I want you to take the hands off this watch. And he'll take the watch and he'll look at you and he'll go, wait, what? I don't understand. And you explain to him you just want him to totally remove the watch and put the crystal back on. And he does it, and you end up with this. And this is all you need to perform the effect other than a dry erase marker. If you take a dry erase marker, you can draw on any time that you want to force, any time at all. In this case, I use 9:05. But what's great is you have the flexibility. If there's like 3 numbers in your show you want to reveal as part of a serial number later, you force those 3 numbers. So when you draw this on, it looks perfect. Which camera should we go to here? Yeah. You see that? Hopefully you guys can see that. That is as uncanny and perfect an illusion as you could hope for. There is literally no chance somebody's going to go, you know, those look like they've been drawn on with dry erase marker. I saw Jerry Andrus lecture when I was really little. An amazing guy who sadly passed on, and he did a whole lecture, an hour-and-a-half lecture, with his glasses. And the last thing he did was he said, by the way, and he took his glasses off and pushed his fingers through the frames to show that they don't actually have lenses, that our eyes were painting on the lenses. We were looking into his eyes the whole time, but we didn't see the lenses that were there because our brains are so used to painting on those lenses. Same principle here. We're so used to staring through crystal at hands on a clock that we don't notice we're staring at the crystal instead of through it. So here we are. We've got this 9:05 force time, right? Now, we have to hopefully show some movement on the watch. And here's how we do that. I pull the pin out, and all I say is, if I wanted to influence you to take a time, or you just gesture with it, you could say, you know, perhaps you'll stop at 12:15, or I don't know, like 3:35, anytime you want. It's up to you. And all I'm doing is I'm changing how I show you relative to the circle. In other words, the hands don't move, it's the whole circle that moves, but you swear you're seeing hands that go in different areas, right? So you do that, and the rest is cake. They twist, 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 stopping wherever they want. You lock that time in, let them see it. Big tip here, always show it to a second person. Because if somebody's going to go, no, it was 9:06 or 9:07, you know, you want somebody to confirm that it's 9:05. Okay, so you get that. And then it all happens in one motion. As I go to place it in his hand, I say, hold out your hand flat. And as I turn this on its side, all I'll do, I can just do it the once if you want to get a close-up. I'm going to, with one finger, I'm simply going to wipe away the markings as I put it in his hand. And now you get, whether you do mind reading or subliminal reinforcement, however you want to do it, you tell them the time they thought of. But then you get this wonderful ending where the watch itself goes blank. So, if you want to make that up yourself, you are more than welcome to. It is something that's for sale on Penguin. It's called Timeless. Looks like this, and you get the kit with the watch and the marker and DVD explaining it all. But you are certainly welcome and have our blessing to make it up yourself. And hope that's something you guys enjoy playing with. All right. Any questions on that at all? Yeah.
We got a question from online. Ben Young asks, I've been having trouble making the time look legit. The hands don't look very opaque. Do you have any advice?
I tend to go over it twice. Like I'll show you. We can. I'll give you the way I do it here. So what he's saying, can we do kind of a close-up on that? Yeah. He's saying that they look kind of opaque. I just turn it on its side and do that and that. And I mean, that does look a little opaque to me, but when you're right up on it, how can I do this? There you go. I think it looks pretty great. So I wouldn't over-worry yourself on that. Just go over it twice like this, and it's done. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. All right. So let us do this.
Josh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
About the previous trick?
Yeah.
The Hitchcock one?
Yeah.
I think you may not have mentioned how you force the cards.
Ah, right. I use a riffle force.
Okay.
So you're at that point in the trick. He's asking about, you're at the beginning. You got a stack here, you got the box here, and you force those cards from the top of the deck any way you want. In my experience, staging it, working with it, you want to get it over as fast as you can. So I simply cut the deck as the 4 people join me up on stage. Hi, your name is Ben. One little thing, I'm terrible with names. Terrible with names. And when I do my hour and 15-minute show, I have people on stage almost every trick. So for me, a tip, and if you are bad with names, this might be helpful to you, I just cherry pick which ones I'm going to remember. So I'm going to remember names 1 and 2 for this trick. I ask everybody their names, but I'm only going to ever call 2 people by their names. And in a trick I do where I get 6 people up, I get the first and like the third person I always remember. So I ask him his name, and then I just go, hey, idiot, remember Ben, 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 Ben. Remember Brian, Brian, Brian. Don't care, don't care. And then later I can, talk. So when I go to Ben, what's your name, Ben? Ben, say stop. I just cut at the break. Give him 1, 2, 3, 4, because it just doesn't matter. And that's really an excellent question, because later tonight I'm going to do another one of my favorite effects that I've come up with, where it's just the opposite. In this effect, when you look at it, you have to determine what's important. What moments are important to emphasize and what is just important to get through, to get to the point. And in this trick, I feel the freedom of the selection, not important. But later on, I'm going to show you a trick in which the freedom of selection is everything. So we're going to spend a lot of time on what I think is one of the more convincing forces out there. So, yeah.
After you shuffle the cards, the order of these cards may change.
Won't ever change.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, he's asking if you give a shuffle to the cards, like I give a quick 2 shuffles, the order might change. But it actually won't. Because it's a basic interlocking chains. If you've got, let's just say these are the 4 cards with the corners missing. If I give them 1 shuffle, it simply puts 1 or 2 cards between them, but they're still in order. And if I give it a second shuffle, it's going to put them further in the deck, but always in that same order. The order won't change unless you cut between them and do a 3rd shuffle. So yeah, you don't ever have to worry. And that's actually one of the things I think is kind of nice. The pieces and the cards always come out in the right order. There's no weird adjustments or anything. It just really flows kind of silky smooth, which took literally hundreds, if not thousands, of performances to get to that point. So, yeah. Questions on anything else? Beautiful. Okay. When I go to lectures, because I live in New York now, and I still go to every lecture I can. If I'm ever at a convention, I'll go to the other lectures to try and learn things. We have the things we do kind of set. Well, it's a home run if you can find a new trick to put in your show. But what we're all after all the time is new impromptu material. So I'm going to share with you now an impromptu piece, a piece that you can do anytime, anywhere. Some of the Penguin viewers might be familiar with it, but watch closely because you will see something you've never seen before. I typically do it in a restaurant where you can borrow a napkin. So we'll just use this, and you can take a look at it and make sure. Your name?
Chris.
Chris, do you have a wallet on you by chance?
I do.
Great. Can I borrow it, please? In fact, all I need is a $1 bill from you, if I could. Have $1? Maybe you have a single? You have a single on you, Ben? Glad nobody brought their wallets. Very good. These free Penguin lectures. You have $1? She's got one right here. And your name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Great. Ashley. Ashley, have you ever met, what's your name?
Drew.
You ever met Drew?
Yes.
You have met Drew. You know him. That's good. Good to know. Before we begin, Ashley, I want to make your bill unique to all the world. Is this okay? I probably should have cleared. Is this?
No, it's totally okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay. That looks pretty real, right? And you said you never met Drew before? or you have met Drew. Drew, pinch the corner of that for me. I want everybody here and at home to be witness to the fact that it was Drew, not me, who tore her money. I had nothing to do with it. Can you examine that handkerchief? Mm-hmm. This is a journey that's going to happen in darkness. So I'll fold it up. Go ahead and cover my hand with a handkerchief. Beautiful. And if you don't mind, Drew, pass the piece over and stand up for me. Stand right over here. And do me a favor, just pinch there. That's good. Don't let go. Hold it up. On 3, the journey happens. 1, 2, 3. Release. Totally gone. Pretty cool. Take a look. Make sure it's really gone. Now, even though you guys have met, you didn't set anything up with Ashley beforehand. How do you keep your money? Like in a wallet? Or, would you take out your wallet for me? Keep it in your pocket or whatever. Reach inside, and hopefully there's something there that wasn't there before. Slowly take that out. Let them see that. You see this? This, ladies and gentlemen, is a bill. But this bill is unique to all the world because this bill is missing a piece. I wonder if the piece you were holding matches the bill that you discovered in your wallet. This, ladies and gentlemen, would be absolutely impossible. Well, we got a problem now. We got a problem because I don't want to give you a bill that's in pieces. So I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's fold this on the inside. Ashley, you mind coming up for just a second so they can see? Normally I wouldn't have you come up. Do me a favor. Hold out your hand flat, just a little higher, and other hand on top. Yeah, that's good. Very good. I want you to imagine those pieces fusing fiber for fiber, absolutely inch for inch back, attaching itself to the bill. Go ahead, open it up, see if it's worked. So it's not just a journey in space, but it's actually a journey in time back to the way you loaned it to me. Thank you very much. So don't think of this as the effect I just did. Hope you like that. But that's just one example in a studio with limited conditions. You can make the bill go anywhere you want. And that's why I use this thing constantly. In bars, restaurants, anywhere I am, because you can make a bill go anywhere you have the skill to load a bill. So think potato, lemon, the dessert, the centerpiece at the wedding or bar mitzvah you're performing at. Anywhere you can load a bill, you can do this trick. It's also an example of looking at a classic trick backwards. So the way typically a trick would be done with a torn corner is as follows. You would tear a corner off a bill, and you would take this bill and load it, let's say, in your lemon, right? Now you've got to begin the trick with a piece palmed in your hand. So you'd borrow a bill from somebody, but you don't have empty hands. Then you have to tear the corner off, which is always a little awkward when you've got something palmed. Paul Gertner has a method with a thumb tip, but now you're wearing a thumb tip. So, boom, you do that. Now you have to make a switch, right? Boom, some kind of switch. And now, when you vanish this bill, you have to vanish it with the other piece palmed. So if you look at the timeline of the trick, you have something in your palm before, during, and after the vanish. In the way I'm going to show you how to do it, everything is taken care of. You borrow it with empty hands, nothing in your palm. In fact, he's palming the piece for you. He just doesn't know it. Okay? What's cool about this trick, I said it would be impromptu. It is, because each time you do it, you're resetting it for the next time. So I'll use Ashley's bill next time I do it, and so on and so on and so on. Okay? So here it is. And by the way, so that you know, this trick is called Cornered, and I released it with Penguin. So you're getting it now, just for tuning in. But you're also getting a little bit of a different handling on it, a different take. I like the way I do it there, and I like the way I did it here. But in addition here, for the first time ever, never even tip this to any magician, any other soul, I'm giving you what I think is a critical part, which was developed later, which is how to restore the piece at the end. I don't know very many bill tricks at all that end any different than you have a bill, they match the corner, and you give it back. This one, you restore it before you give it back. So there's something to be said for that. So here's what you do. You can follow along at home. You only have to do this once in your life because you'll keep resetting it each time you do it. You tear a corner off a bill. You fold that bill in half. And you tuck the piece, the very piece that you tore off, you tuck it back into the bill. You see that? So now you have a piece in a bill here, and I'm going to fold that in half. And I fold it in half this way, and because of the little tail on that piece, now it's locked in from falling this way. Then when I fold it once and twice more, now it's locked in left and right. So it can't go anywhere up and down, and it can't go anywhere left and right. That piece is totally secure. You can throw it, you can have it in your pocket, in your pants. I keep this loaded like this in my wallet, and my excuse when it's totally impromptu and I didn't know I would be performing a trick until the second somebody asks is I have that there and somebody says, oh, come on, just one trick, just do something, just do something. Oh man, does anybody... And I go in and I steal the bill as I say, I don't have one. Does anybody have a one I can borrow? And all I do is I reach in, steal that out, and now I'm loaded to load it somewhere. Okay, so you can get into this thing anytime. Here's how you would load it in a totally impromptu situation. In an absolutely impromptu situation, I would borrow a wallet. May I borrow yours for just a second? And I would say to him, I would take his wallet for just a second, and I would say, if it's all right, I just need to borrow this dollar bill from you. Is that okay? And I left mine in. I left the one I loaded inside. And then this is the great line. Darwin Ortiz suggested it to me. I used to say, please put this away. But so much subtler to say, you're going to need two hands for this. And then watch, just like a well-trained pet, he takes that wallet, puts it away, and now you have a much better trick because it's not like it goes to his lap. It goes to his back pocket or whatever. So you do that, and boom, boom, boom. So just leave that piece there. Or I'll take it back, actually, so they can see. So that would be loaded anywhere you want it to go. Now look at the advantages. 3 advantages you never used to have. When I borrow a bill, I hope you noticed that when I took the bill from Ashley, my hands were legitimately empty. I wasn't palming anything. There was no thumb tip. When I tore that piece and made a little joke, with Drew, but he tore the piece off, which is much stronger, a better reinforcer than me doing something and switching something. So it's legitimately the piece that was torn from the bill, and he holds on to that. Now you're free to vanish this bill in totally free conditions without palming anything. You can vanish it any way you like. The way I did it tonight, because it's kind of like a parlor setting that we've got going on with the cameras, is you borrow a napkin from wherever you're at. You cover it like this. And I let it creep up just past the watch. So you have all this mass of napkin in front of you blocking the view. And all I do is tuck it under the watch as I turn over. And the thing is, I grew up in a small town here in Ohio, in Canton, Ohio, where there was not really any magic shop or teacher. So I would go to these meetings once in a while, and I would see props that I didn't know you could buy. And one time the guy showed me the classic method where the piece of paper is sewn into the hem of the handkerchief, and that's where you reach under and you have them hold. You know this one I'm talking about? And they feel they're holding a bill, but it's just a piece of paper. When they let go, it kind of blends into the hem. But that's your handkerchief. And they can't really examine it or they will find it. So I was young, I was just a kid, but I created this one to mimic what I saw a guy do and realized I had invented an impromptu way to do it, because now as soon as it goes, it's a borrowed handkerchief and you can give it right back, which is, I think, a really great advantage. So if you're using that old method, Throw away your gimmick and now you can do it totally impromptu. So now you have empty hands. Call attention to his wallet. He opens it up, he takes it out, and he discovers the bill inside. But we're going to pause there because I want to explain to you what I did. I didn't load it here in front of everybody. What I realized is this. I do Bill and Lemon in my show. To avoid what happened tonight, which is asking somebody to borrow a bill and they don't have the bill you want, I try and avoid that happening. It still happens sometimes. But you don't want that kind of dead time when you're performing for a big group in a show. So I found myself pre-screening anyway. I wasn't setting anything up. I was just going out in the audience and saying, hi, I'm going to perform this evening. Since you're sitting near the front, I'm going to be borrowing a bill. I was wondering if you had a single dollar bill, and making sure that the person I asked would be quick with a bill. Then it dawned on me, why not take that opportunity to load it? So I'll show you how I loaded it on Drew. I just said to him, hey man, we're going to be starting in a few minutes. I need to borrow a bill. Can I see your wallet for a second? And I opened the wallet and I just went, you know, it's actually one of those bifold. I need a trifold wallet. That's okay though. Never mind. Now it's loaded and he doesn't know that it's there, but it's loaded. And the thing is, the thing about that is, here's the thing. Yes, Drew is going to know at some point in thinking back, oh, he did touch my wallet beforehand. But here's the thing, guys. Let's say you're performing for 50 or 100 people. One person is still amazed. They're still going to be fooled because there's so many elements at play here. But perhaps he will be fooled 20% less than everybody else. Guess what? If 99 out of 100 people go home saying, you're never going to believe this. He borrowed a bill from Ashley, went over to a stranger Ashley had never met, and made her bill appear in his wallet without ever touching him. It was amazing. I will take those odds just because Drew isn't going to be as impressed every day of the week, 100% of the time. So I'm totally comfortable with that. That's why I like to preload it if I get to the venue early. If I hadn't been here early enough, I would have just done it on the spot. Okay, is that pretty clear to everybody? Okay, so I'll take that back. So you're preloaded in the wallet. And remember, the one that's in the wallet is this piece. Where are we here? Here it is. Is this piece with the bill in it. The bill and the piece in the wallet. So that's in the spectator's pocket, either before the show or as you do it. You vanish the bill. You've got it under your wallet. Or under your watch. It's gone. The handkerchief is passed out. Now you call attention to the spectator. You have them stand up and you just keep that shaded. But all the attention goes to him or her because they're doing something really amazing, which is reaching inside their wallet and pulling out something that they never saw before. So while they're doing that, I just go behind my back, sort of a submissive position and giving them the stage. And when I go behind my back, I take the bill out and I say, please take it out and show everybody what you found. Boom. Bill goes safely in my pocket and now I'm clean. So now, this is the beautiful part of Cornered. Now they hand you the bill. They don't realize it, but they are palming the piece for you. You're taking it back with empty hands. But if you can get a close-up as I unfold it, it's all done right here. As I unfold this bill, when I fold it down, my right thumb goes right on top of that little cutout piece. It's like a gimmick made to do this. That's what's so amazing. And as you unfold it, look where that piece ends up. Exactly behind the bill, right where you need it to be. If you had done the classic method, this is the part where you'd be here and you'd have to load that piece behind in a really awkward move. You'd have to have it in your thumb tip perhaps. But it's exactly where you need it to be 2 seconds before you need it to be there. So now you're there. A detail here. I always open it so that the groove is to my right. I then retrieve the piece back with my left hand. Now these don't match. This piece does not match that bill, which is a good thing because you, in your current position, you can't really hold it up to show that it does because you're mishanded. Do you see? It's this way and this is in the wrong hand, which gives you the perfect opportunity to do the switch. And if the bill you gave me matches the piece Ashley was holding, this would be impossible. You give both of those out for a moment or whatever, and you're clean. You just have this that you get rid of when you put that away or whatever you do. Okay. That's the way, I'm happy to say, people have been doing cornered for 5 or 6 years all over the world. And I'm really pleased so many people use this trick. I've lectured on it. It's been available through Penguin. But there was always that looming problem. It's not a huge problem. I absolutely stand by the fact that you could give that back and some people would think that's a cool souvenir. But the other people are going to think you're an idiot for tearing their bill and giving it back. So you could buy it back from them and give them a different dollar. Or you could do this ending, which I'm explaining in a world premiere here. So you would have, let's get a clean bill. You'd have a clean bill. We're going back to the setup now. There's just a little additional setup. It takes about 1 extra second. You take a full bill and fold it like this. And you're going to put this bill into the bill that we already know how to set up. So just where you put the piece, you're just adding a little extra baggage, a second checked bag. You're putting that bill plus the, you like that metaphor there? That was right off the top of my head. Hey, you put it there. Spirit Airline would charge you $200 for this second bill. Okay. So you put it here and you fold it in half and it works the same way as the piece does. It's along for the ride. You fold it in like this. And yes, that's a thick bundle, but nobody ever handles that except the spectator with their fingers. So they're never going to feel it. Everything works the same. Everything works the same. That bill just floats along for the ride, waiting for the second phase. So same thing. You take it back with empty hands. You unfold it in this way so you can see behind. Your thumb goes right there. And once again, as before, it's just sitting there right in position with this groove open to the right. So when you take this piece back, the switch is exactly the same. The bill you were holding matches the piece. And here you've got the bill and the piece. You put it here and switch. Same thing. Hold it up. And it matches. But now, to get into the second phase, all you're going to do is I take this piece and steal it in front of the other piece. So I have both pieces here. I tuck them inside the folds of the bill. And now you're just into standard bill switch position. So you fold in, up, there's my dupe right there, and I say hold out your hand, and as you go into the hand, just pull back, close their hand, and now they're going to be left with a bill that's completely restored. You borrowed a clean bill, you made it travel, then you give it back totally restored. I think you got a little 5-minute routine that's done totally off the cuff, non-card, and that's sort of called cornered. Questions from anybody on that or anything else? Yeah.
So that was phenomenal.
Thank
I've been
you.
a fan of cornered since 2006, since Stockholm when
Sweet.
you
Yeah.
published it. The 2 questions. One is, do you preload before the show or before the trick?
Before the show, if you were going to do it in a formal situation, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I did. I just did it before we all got started.
That's
just
awesome.
Chatting with people. But if you were going to do it in an impromptu setting, here's my MO. When I walk in somewhere where I know I'm going to be asked to do a trick, I will just be thinking from the second I walk in, where's the coolest place I'm going to do corner tonight? Where's the coolest place I could reveal it? If I'm hanging out at a restaurant with these really funky vases on the wall with lights in it, I'm going to use Equivoke to force that vase in that cubby hole, and that's where the bill's going to end up. Back in the old days, before I would do the restore at the end, when I would go out on dates, I would have it loaded. I'd have the waiter, give him a little tip, loaded in a dessert. So she orders dessert. You vanish the bill. You don't know where it's going to be. She's holding onto this corner, and then she goes to cut into the dessert, and boom, she's got this bill. And it's why I didn't have many girlfriends, I guess. So, yeah.
second question. Have you ever had it where the person you load walks off or leaves, and do you have a backup plan for that kind of disaster?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it has happened. And that is why I always have one right down here in the corner of my wallet. Because if Drew were to just walk off because he hates Alfred Hitchcock and he just left, right?
Yeah.
I'm going, shoot, what am I going to do? But I can always rely on the impromptu method where I'll take my wallet out and go, I don't have $1. If somebody has $1, I can do a trick. You have one, sir? And now I'll just load it on him as we go. So there's always a way out. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. People at home, people in the studio, what I'd like to do is do one more trick now and then take a little time to chat about anything you want, stories, things I can help you with, anything at all, and talk in a more theoretical sense for just a couple of minutes, do a couple of questions, and then we'll jump back into more tricks. Does that sound all right? So think of your questions now, and in this one, I want to change the setting a little bit because I want you to be able to see a trick that's totally in the hands. I'll tell you what, if I kneel down, can you kind of go down with us? All right, I'll do this with you. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for letting me perform in your lap. And if you guys around, if you can't see, you can huddle around. I think that's totally fine. Can you guys see where you're at? Go like this for me. I'm going to try a little lower so that they can see. I'm going to try and do one of the toughest tricks in Magic, finding 4 aces from a shuffled deck. But before I do, I'm going to mix these cards. You notice I'm mixing them in your hands? I do that because I want you to be positive that these cards really are mixed. Leave your hands just like that. So in this condition, some up, some down, it would be really tough to try and find 4 aces. That's the first one. I'll try and do the next one with a dead cut. That's the second one. The third one, I'll do what's called a center deal. I want to deal it from the deck, but since it's not on the top, there's a 6 on top, I have to do what's called a center deal and deal it from the middle of the deck. So some are up, some are down, some are up, some are down. Last one, I have to figure out a way to sort of top all the others. So I just do this, and every card in the deck, every single card turns over except for one. You get to show it to him. Last ace. Perfect. Hold out your hands again. One time I did this and somebody said to me, yeah, but do that with my deck of cards. You can't do that with any deck. And I said, yeah, actually, I can do that with any deck. In fact, I can do that with every deck. Every single deck I've ever used. Every single card I've ever used. Turn over the ones, even the ones in your hands change to every deck I've ever used. All right. So hopefully you can get kind of a close-up on this. One of my big influence in Magic is this guy named Simon Aronson, who's a wonderful magician, influenced the way I think about things a lot. And he was the first one who said to me, we were talking about color-changing decks, because we're going to talk about that next. And he was the one who said to me, kind of in an offhand way, sort of said, you know, any color-changing deck is like 10 times stronger if you do a rainbow deck. And it got me thinking, you know, he's right. He's absolutely right. And if you ever try, like red to blue versus red to rainbow, you will see for yourself. And there are other examples of this in Magic that still, to this day, I cannot explain to you logically, and yet the evidence is overwhelming. I'll give you another example. How many of you guys in the studio do some kind of bill change trick? Hundy, extreme burn, bill switch, right? Almost everybody. Have you noticed that the trick gets stronger from, say, changing a 1 to a 5 versus 1 to 100? I notice a humongous difference, a difference that's so great you would think that the tricks were different. And yet, the trick is the same. One piece of paper changes to another piece of paper. It's no better that it changes to one with 2 zeros on it than a 1 to a 5. And yet, you change 1s to 20s, the reaction is always the same. Ha, it's a good trick. It'd be great if you could go to hundreds. Right? Makes no sense. Who are these people? Who would say that? But they all say it. Same thing here. I have a theory. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say, because I can't say for certain. I think it has something to do with the fact that if you change a red deck for a blue deck, the best you could hope for, the best in the spectators' minds, is that they would say, wow, I didn't see you switch decks. Because they know what a red deck is and they know what a blue deck is. They both are in grandma's drawer. But if you change a red deck into this, where every card is from a different deck, they don't have a reference point for this. This is something different. It seems like it changed, not that you switched it. That's the sort of intro that's going to get us into talking about this, which is my Prism deck. I'm going to share with you my color-changing deck routine. I have been working on it for about 10 years. No, a little less than that, about 8 years. It started when a magician from New York, Matt Furman, showed me a Terry LeGerald trick, which is what this is based on. I was always looking for the perfect color-changing deck. To me, that would be totally in the hands, easily reset, like for walking from one group to another, something that would involve the spectators, because most color-changing decks you kind of perform at people. You know, they just sort of watch and it happens. This would be integrated. And it would be something that could be done surrounded, because if you're going to do it in the hands, you're going to have people everywhere. This is where I'm at with it. You can put together your own rainbow deck. They sell different versions. You can get 52 decks and you'll have 52 rainbow decks. This one is one that I put out. It's called the Prism deck. A lot of thought went into it. For starters, when you spread my Prism deck, you have a perfect array of colors. There's not an emphasis on reds or blues. It's pretty well balanced. Also, there are all kinds of secret things built into the Prism deck. It is a deck in which every card is either a trick or a secret device. So, I mean, some examples are the very first one I pulled here, the Big Deal. It's the Big Deal food and fun for the whole family. But if you're Penguin customers, you know that the Big Deal is a popular trick that I released through them. And if anybody ever had a complaint, it was that it has a setup that's pretty abstract, like a 22-card setup. This is your cheat sheet. This is how I always remember the Big Deal setup, because it's right here on this card. This card is for a trick we won't go into tonight. The New York City, the Statue of Liberty, is for a red hot mama where you vanish the Statue of Liberty. This is for a trick. This is, it says Aronson's Casino. I mentioned Simon Aronson. I gave him a little tribute. But what this really is a watermarked total cheat sheet of his memorized deck. I give this to my girlfriend when we're out places, and she has this as a cheat sheet, so I can do any card at any number. Have somebody name a card, then say to Anna, just go ahead and name a number, and she knows what number to name based on the card, and you have a friggin' miracle on your hands with no training, Every card in this deck, here's one, here's a great one. This is for the old 52 on 1 gag. There's tons of things built into this particular deck. My favorite thing that's built into the deck is this. As you'll soon see, the setup is that you begin with red cards so that it looks like a red deck. I switched this in after using a red deck all night. Every one of these cards is marked. It seems ridiculous to mark a rainbow deck since every card is different anyway. But that allows you to do this sort of thing. You switch the deck in, and before you start the trick, you can say to somebody, I'll tell you what, let's try a bit of mind reading. I'm going to riffle through the cards like this. I'll look away. Would you just call stop? Right there. And would you remember that card? I just looked at the back design, right? So now I have a key right behind there, and I can say, great, beautiful, think of that card. I don't want you to say a word, but with your mind, scream stop when I get to your card. Don't let on that you're doing anything. Just scream stop. And now I'm just looking, and I stop at exactly the card before the one I glimpsed. Now I look here and I look at the markings on the back. You see TW there, that tells, or TH, 2 of hearts. If it was this one, KH, that's King of Hearts. So all I have to do now is say, and think of that card, please. I don't even want to look. Just concentrate on it. It's a red card. It's a heart. It's a King of Hearts. Is that correct? Well, that's weird because that's the one I keep in my pocket. And you're doing all this magic without showing the backs of the cards. So you're delaying after the switch the time between when you switch and when you show the backs are different. So that's the important thing in my deck, is that there are all these tricks. I didn't think it was important enough to take 20 minutes of lecture time to go through my routine that I do beforehand. You can see that on the internet in your own time, the whole routine that I do before the color change. What I am going to share with you, because regardless of which deck you use, I'm going to share with you my color changing deck routine, because I think it's something you'll use. So I'm going to come back here. You've got any deck of cards you want to switch in, and you've got 4, let's say, red aces face down on the face up deck. Now, if you want to do the ending where the aces change in his hands, put 3 odd-backed aces on the rear of the pack, like this. And if you want to further make your life easier, I trim the corner of this card so that I can get a break on those aces, but you absolutely don't have to do that. Okay, he makes his hand like this, and you get this marvelous mixing procedure, one of the few triumphs where you mix right into their hands. I grab half from above, and I rotate the lower half 180 degrees. You're not actually turning anything over, but if you do that kind of action, it looks like you've turned half the deck up and half the deck down. And now you mix in his hand for 6 cards. The true condition is all face up except for the 1, but now I mix these face up into face down, and this is the situation. Now if you just do any kind of false cut that you want, you get the first ace. They're alternated, of course, ready to be cut out of the deck. I just do a little slip cut, killing that top card, and that gives me the second ace. You could do another slip cut. I just do a little second deal here, calling it a center deal, where I deal out that card. Now you've got 2 face up, 1 face down ace. I put these cards face up. So you see how these red-backed aces are reinforcing that the deck is red? You're just doing an ace cutting, but what you're really doing is proving that the deck is really red. And I bury that last ace in the middle. Now, I don't have to do anything because I got that short card. It's very easy for me to get a break on 3. I spread through, show that the last ace is face down, and here's a great moment. I turn over to gesture so they see 4 big backs there. You pull that out, and as he turns it over, all I do is a little jinx switch where I feed these into the break as these come away, and I give him the 4 aces again. So now the aces are switched in. If I square these up and turn them over, those aces I just switched out act as my back design, which is really nice. You do any kind of change that you want. I just steal a card from the bottom to the top. You get a change of every card in the deck, and I just really try. It's very timid and everybody's being very polite in here, but I really try and wait for a spectator to go, yeah, but you didn't change the ones in my hand. Oh, you're right, sorry. Go ahead, turn them over. And now you get them. And of course, the big scam in my trick is there's that one problem card, right? The one last ace that doesn't change. But the rainbow deck solved that, because the idea is that you make every card from a different deck, so that one red card just totally blends in with all the other cards in the deck. And then as you walk to the next table, all you do is cut here, turn there, and you're reset. Okay? That's it. That's the Prism deck. Cool. Let's take a 5 or 10 minutes break from the tricks and talk about anything at all that comes to mind. Yeah.
Come on, I hate to go back to that, but can you do that change you used again?
Yeah. Sure. Right. So you would be here. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to steal the bottom card and drop it on the top. So all I do is steal it out this way. I have really big hands, so that's why this change works pretty well for me. I steal it in as I turn over, and then here's the great part. As you take it out, I use these fingers of my left hand to pin that card against my palm. So now you have a totally open hand. You're not palming that card. It's there, and then when you drop it, you get a nice change of the deck. So again, it's just as you're stealing it in, coming over. If I didn't have a watch on, you can go all the way up your arm, but you do that, and then it changes. All right? What else? What shall we talk about? Anything at all? Anybody? Yes, in the back there? Yeah?
So you were talking about how you wrote your first book when you were like 16. So how did you get discovered?
Should he? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just repeat the question.
Okay.
You wrote your first book when you were 16. How did you get discovered?
Well, I don't know that I got discovered. I wrote my book. You know this guy, we're going to get philosophical. You ready to go deep? This guy, James McNamara, he's in this documentary, The Fog of War. He's this incredible guy who had to make very difficult decisions in Vietnam to bomb whole villages, and was a really, really tough decision maker. And he says in that documentary something I never forgot, because I do a lot of press for the books and stuff and some of the things I've done. He said, "You never answer the question they ask. You always answer the question you wish they'd ask." So I'm going to answer a similar question to the one you asked, because I don't really know. I don't know how I got discovered. I wrote a book at 16, which was too young to write a book. Shouldn't probably have done it, but you can't live with any regrets. My reason for writing the book was I didn't travel much as a kid, and I knew if I wrote a book and it was good and it had some things to offer people, I could travel around the world. And that's what I wanted to do. And at the time, even though I was only 15 when I started writing it, I had already been working 3 restaurants a week for like 2 years in my little Canton, Ohio. And nobody told me, like, you go to a magic shop and you buy tricks to perform, or you learn tricks from books. I honestly thought that, like stand-up comedians or artists or singers, you had to invent material, and then that's what you used. So a lot of it wasn't very good, but I can honestly say I really only did original magic that whole time. So I had an arsenal of 30, 40, 50 tricks. I look back, a lot of them were neat ideas, but they didn't go anywhere. Some of them didn't go anywhere. Some of them are quite good, but they were all mine. And I came up with them all myself in a vacuum without much influence. So I published this book. And the reaction was mixed. I think a lot of people thought, what can a kid possibly teach me? He's too young. He's the youngest person to ever write a book like this. He shouldn't be lecturing. He should be sitting in the audience learning, whatever. And maybe they were right. But I did lecture. I did share a lot of that material. A lot of the material from those days is stuff you're going to see tonight. So it has stood the test of time. A lot of it has been refined or has been exactly the same, and I have used it. So there were certainly ideas of merit there. And it took me all over the world. By the time I was 18, I had seen 35, 36 countries, all through magic. I mean, it was amazing. I graduated high school a year early. I was a very unhappy high school student. And I just toured for a year before college, before I came here to Ohio State, doing lectures and shows for people. And it was, like, amazing. So, yeah. Is that kind of the question you asked? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
We get lots of emails through Paper Crane from young people wanting to come up in magic, and I know you serve as an inspiration to a lot of the younger kids.
Oh, thanks.
And I wonder, what would your advice be to young kids who want to kind of try to get famous in magic, maybe publishing tricks or whatever? I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, you know, again, I'm so struck by the question because I can honestly say...
Can I just repeat the question real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
How do you get famous publishing magic?
Right. And I know that... Should you? Right. And I know, and in fairness, what he said was, a lot of people ask him through Paper Crane, how do I get famous? How would I answer that? He's not answering that. Because I'm going to pick on the question, and I know that's not. But I can honestly say that coming up in magic, that was never the goal. There were many goals that fell away and that were not true and altruistic goals, and they sort of go away. But being famous was never one of them, and I'm certainly glad about that. That's a new thing. I get that question a lot. People say, I want to be famous for magicians. And that really blows me away, and I have to say, that's an equation for disaster. If somebody is asking that question instead of how do you create your best work, or how can I get a standing ovation when my show's over, or I want to travel the world doing magic. If the question is how can I be famous for magicians, wow, I guess there are ways we could talk about, but man, I would question the motives there, It's sort of like when you listen to music, you can literally, black and white, you can separate into two out-of-this-world piles. Artists who are trying to make great music and artists who want to be commercially famous. And you want to be very much in the camp of artists making great music. Everything I have to say to young magicians coming up, I did say. I said it in a little book called Under Over. Young magicians, and I know this better than anybody, have a different set of problems than other magicians. They have some advantages, but mostly disadvantages, whether it's in the magic community or for the public doing shows. And I sweated out all the answers to those questions. And when I ceased to be a kid anymore, I wanted to just download all that info. I didn't want to charge anything for it. So I put this little booklet called Under Over out, which you can find in a variety of places on the net. It's a free download. If you're a young magician, I hope you'll get it. It's absolutely free. And I say everything from what can you charge when you're a kid, how do you market yourself, what you're doing, I mean, all I wanted to do when I was a kid was just have people look at my ideas for what they were, ideas. And I won't name them here, I won't be that catty, but there are a lot of big magicians back then who really put me down solely because I was a kid with ideas. And some of the things you're seeing tonight, which are polished professional routines I've used all my life, were the same routines I was doing when I was a kid. It's just they couldn't look past the messenger, and it's funny how those things change. So yeah, does that sound like a bitter answer? It's not meant to be bitter. Yeah.
I've got two questions. I'm going to ask you one, then I have sort of a follow-up.
Yeah.
You said you sort of grew up in a vacuum as far as magic goes. All the material you were doing originally was your own stuff. You're sort of known now for knowing a lot about magic, knowing about the classics, history. When would you say that interest came? Like, how did you go about coming into all that, and when did that interest come about?
Yeah, I fell in love with magic books. And I started collecting magic books and acquiring them and getting every magic book that ever came out. The standard piece of advice from older magicians when I was growing up was, don't buy tricks, buy books. There are 50 ideas in every book. You buy a trick, you only have one idea. And I think that advice is sadly going away because now the older magicians are the DVD generation. But books are where it's at. Absolutely where it's at. You want to study the magicians worth studying, you got to get their books. And so I'm a voracious reader, even now. And I have a huge magic library. I bought 4 estates full of magic books. So I have a storage facility that houses some of them. I have a circulating library in New York. But I have a huge amount of magic books. And when I find something I need from a book I don't have, which usually means it's like pre-1800, I go down to Conjuring Arts Library in New York and use their library. So, I mean, I can't say I'm so knowledgeable, but every bit of knowledge I have comes from books. Yeah.
Then the follow-up question is, how would you say, having read all these books and everything, how would you say that has impacted, both good and bad, how has that impacted your own creativity and coming up with your own material?
Well, I think it's helped, for sure. Margaret Atwood, the writer, said at one point, I'll butcher the quote, but it's something like this. It's something like, I don't read other writers' works to gain knowledge. I do it to watch how they dance. And that's a really pretty way of putting it. I don't really read magic books or watch a DVD now hoping to get the next trick in my show. If I'm interested in a magician and their work and they're doing interesting things, I want to see how they dance. I want to see how they handled it, you know? Danny Garcia's got a new thing with a bill. I want to see what he's doing. Let's see. It's probably not something I'm going to use, but I want to see how he's thinking. I want to see the thinking behind it. And I take so much pleasure from it. I am obsessed with magic. And that sounds like a prerequisite, that sounds obvious, and yet this would be my biggest complaint traveling around the world, lecturing for magicians. I don't think most of the people I lecture for, and it's part of the reason I got out of lecturing, because it was disheartening for me. I don't think most of the people I was lecturing for and meeting who are magicians were as passionate as they should be about magic. To many magicians, it's one of many hobbies. It's something they don't work at. It's a way to relieve stress. And you can't imagine how frustrating that is coming from somebody who, magic is my life. I mean, it's given me everything, but it's taken away a lot of other things normal kids did and do that I didn't do because I was so obsessed with magic. I mean, I do shows, a couple shows every week. I'm always traveling. I'm on the road more weeks than I'm home. And yet, every night I fall asleep reading a magic book. Every night I'm watching at least one DVD or clip somebody has sent me to review for the magazine. I'm constantly working on new stuff, and then I'll go see every lecture that comes through New York. If I'm not working, I'll be there. Because I'm obsessed. I love it. I never get sick of it. It is the thing that drives me and makes me get up in the morning. So people who don't have a passion for it, it boggles me that they stay in it. Because certainly there are easier ways to make money. You'd be the dumbest person in the world if you were only in magic to make money, because there are far easier ways to make money than magic. It's a gift. Like those of us who make a living doing it, that is so icing on the cake. So to me, the acquiring of knowledge is part of the game, part of the fun. And I've heard this very feeble argument, well, I don't read books, I don't watch DVDs, I don't see other magicians because I don't want to be tainted. But look at the people who say that, and most of the time you'll see their work is really shallow because they have no frame of reference. Yeah. Should we take one more little question and then jump back in?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. On the topic of books, we got a question. Do you have a favorite book? Actually, we have two questions related to books, and I'll ask them both now. Number one, do you have a favorite book? Number two is, have you read Tarbell cover to cover?
Yeah, all of them. Sure I have. Yeah.
Is that a total no-brainer?
Well, no. You know, one of the great advances... By the way, am I supposed to be looking there? I feel like I'm talking to a camera, but there are all these great people in here. Who am I talking to? Director, as we go live.
You know, you look wherever you like. You're Joshua freaking J.
All right. I'll mix it up a little. I love you at home. I just love the people here, too. There has been great progress with magic books in our lifetime. You can't say that about every facet of the magic industry. But thanks to Richard Kaufman and Stephen Minch, they have essentially revitalized the way magic books were transmitted. So in the days of Tarbell, remember Tarbell Course in Magic, even though now we know it is 8 books, it used to be a by-mail course, and they would send parts of it. Books like that, Expert Card Technique, some of the classics that everybody is quick to recommend, they're written in the style of cookbooks. They're tons of information sort of organized by chapter and laid out. You know, Tarbell just has endless amounts of great ideas, but I don't think Harlan Tarbell conceived of a time or a place where magicians would be reading them cover to cover. It's so monotonous and so hard to do. You'd be better off just like opening to a random different page every day and letting inspiration strike. With Stephen Minch and Richard Kaufman, they started writing books in a really artful way. I mean, you read the Books of Wonder. That is a journey. It starts on page 1 and ends at the end of book 2. But it is a progressive journey, and he references things before, and now we're going to take the concept we just learned that we talked about in theory, and we're going to use it in practice here. So a lot of the newer books, and I say newer as in 30 years, are much more accessible to read. It doesn't mean you shouldn't read the older books. I spend most of my time with older books, but they're not readable in the same way. You have to kind of approach them like cookbooks. Like, I'll go back and be like, there was this thing in Tarbell where he did a thing with a bill. That's right. And, you know, that's how I use that. And what was the first one? I forget what your first question was.
Oh, the first one was just, do you have a favorite book?
I have so many favorite books. I just reread for, I'm not kidding you, probably the 20th time, the Books of Wonder. And they're every bit as, I mean, Tommy meant a lot to me. I knew him, and he, to me, is the perfect magician. So I'm always hot on his book. But I love his books. I love Darwin Ortiz's books, particularly on theory. I think they're really great. I love Mike Close's Workers book, which you can get as one big book now, as an ebook. It's like total education in a guy's repertoire. I love the 4 volumes on the Vernon Chronicles. You could make your living just with those 4 books. Collected Almanac, there's another one. So great. All right, shall we jump back into a trick?
Okay.
Let's do it. How are we feeling, everybody? Good?
Great.
Everybody asks magicians questions. How'd you do that? How many tricks do you know? What do you think of that Chris Angel guy? But there's one question that I think is better than all the others put together, and that is, where do you learn your secrets? Right? That's a good question. Some magicians learn from books, as we just talked about. Some magicians learn from teachers, but all magicians everywhere in the world learn from magic books. Now, you could say there's a secret on every page of a magic book if you looked hard enough. And there are classics in magic books, like the one I'm about to perform. It's called Any Card at Any Number. Do you know this plot? It's one of the most beautiful in all of magic, but also one of the most challenging. You take any card from a deck, you name any number between 1 and 52, and then the card goes to that position. It's a very elegant problem, but typically very, very difficult to execute. This book has 2 versions that I'm aware of. But what I'm going to show you now is a version I've been working on for over 10 years. And it's one of my favorite things to do. Typically, I have somebody from far away just call stop as I go through here. But since, Ben, you're right up close, in a moment I'm going to have you touch a card. You can touch any one you like. You can change your mind if you want. But when you get a card you want, show it around and we'll have somebody else name the number, okay? Just to keep it fair and honest. So please, touch any card. Is that the one you want? Yeah. Do you want to change your mind?
That's it.
So show it to the cameras. I will look away. Beautiful. And you can have a seat, Ben. Thank you. You can see that. Now, of course, somebody needs to name a number. If I asked you to name the number, maybe they'd think you and I knew each other or something like this. So point to anybody else in the studio, and that person will name a number. Colin? Any number between 1 and 52, if you please.
22.
22. You want to change your mind? Sure? All right. 22. We're going to count down exactly 22 cards, and hopefully that card will be yours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Any card at any number. Right? Sorry, should be... Sorry, it's 22 and then... Okay? Oops. I have to do it again in a second. Was it not... Seriously, was it... It was one of these, though, I think, right? No. No? Is that not it?
No.
Well, that's a hard trick. In fact, it was so hard... Maybe I should have looked in the book. See, my hands are empty. But I told you from the very beginning that I had a secret on every single page of a magic book. But it's also obvious that every page in a magic book is different, right? You can see different page numbers, different pictures, different letters, yeah? You named a number. That was a totally free choice, right?
Yeah.
gave you the option to change your mind.
Yeah.
What was the number you named?
22.
22. Would you verify that's page 28, 26, 24, and that's page 22?
Yep.
See there? And can you verify that there is a card on page 22?
Yes, there is.
Would you take that card, Ben, but don't look at it just yet? Because I want you to remember, even you folks at home watching, that I gave Ben a totally free choice and the chance to change his mind, correct? You had a free choice to change your mind on any number. What was the card you did end up at?
3 of hearts.
Is that right? 3 of hearts? Show it to him, Ben. We get it? All right. All right. We don't have time to explain this one, but no, just kidding. Right. So I wanted to do this for you guys tonight. This is when I look at tricks. A lot of times I like to look at the things, and maybe this is helpful to you. I like to look at the things about a trick that I don't like. In other words, we fall so in love with the things we like. I love that moment at this or that, and you want to get to. But I try and first talk myself out of doing a trick by looking at the things I don't like. And this trick, any card, any number, there are 3 things I don't like. Number 1, it's a counting trick. Counting tricks are boring. You'll very rarely see me do anything with just dealing and nothing else. Number 2, it's not a magic trick. Any card, any number is a coincidence effect. You take a card, you name a number, and they match, and that's an amazing coincidence, but that's not magic. And third, anytime you've ever seen this trick done by anybody who does it well, they will always explain the premise first and then do the trick. Because you have to tell them where it's going, or else it's very complicated for laymen, you know. You will name a card, you will name a number, and they will match. But when you do that, you take away the surprise. You take away that surprise and the freshness that comes with most tricks that have something unexpected. So I hope you can see, given my 3 complaints, how this version reinvents it all and solves all of them. It's not a counting trick anymore. You can blaze through the counting because you're going to get it wrong. It is a magic trick because it vanishes and reappears. It's not a coincidence effect. And you tell them what's going to happen, but there is a surprise that's better than what they were expecting. Okay? Earlier tonight, I got a great question about what force I used, and I said later on I would talk to you about a time when a force is important. Think about the difference. In Hitchcock, there's nothing about that trick. No spectator leaves with the question, what if I had picked a different card? That's not what they ask in Hitchcock. In this trick, that's precisely what I hope they ask. And it was the card. What if I had picked a different card? What if I had named one number different? What would have happened? Which is why we'll spend a little time talking about a force which I invented just for this trick. You can really only use this force for this trick. So, let's begin at the end. You need a book. The book is not gaffed. However, it is prepared. It is prepared. Actually, I should start so this doesn't get too confusing. You need a setup. It's a force. It's a force, and it's a 12-card setup. Here's the 12 cards plus the 3 of hearts. And the only other thing that you need is 40 3 of hearts. So one-way force deck. As you know, you can just get these from any magic shop or place, and it's all one and the same. So you get 40 3 of hearts and 12 indifferent cards. The only other thing that you need is the book, and the book is prepared. It's prepared in the following way. Every single page between 1 and 52 has 3 of hearts on it, okay? Hope you can see those. Every single page has one, and it creates an index for you so that any number named, including 22, you can reveal as a 3 of hearts. So just to cover our bases, as you know, whatever card is on any page functions for both pages, 22 and 23. This one for 28 and 29. You understand that, right? That's why you need 26 to make 52 pages of outs. When I first created this, I thought for sure I'd have to glue the cards in because they would fall. They don't at all fall. They stay right where they are. I thought I would have to stagger them up, down to keep the book flatter. But they add no thickness anyway, so you can just keep them all, if you had an X-ray, right here. Now, you have some great displays with this book. This book's like 250 pages, so you can show 200 of those pages totally legit, right? And that's what I'm doing at the beginning when I'm foreshadowing the effect. As I'm paging through, I'm showing these pages as normal. You know, you can't come out and say, ladies and gentlemen, an empty book, because that would give it away. But you can just sort of say, as you go through, people ask different questions, a little joke, whatever. Then you can go through from the beginning and page through like this, because these are the Roman numeral pages. It looks like you're going through the first 20 pages of the book, but I'm really just going through the Roman numeral pages before page 1 and then back through. You can even go through the pages with the cards as long as you keep them a little cozy like this as you get through, and then of course you can go back through to show one by one the Roman numeral pages. So that's a thorough understanding of how you're showing this book without ever really blatantly showing the book. And the cards will be your open index. Now, when I do this in my one-man show, I use a very old antique book that when you close it, dust comes up, and I talk about the great tradition of magic books. When I'm traveling on the road, I want to use a book that I don't care if it gets lost or stolen, like Simon Lovell's new book. Sorry. Now, that's the end. Let's go back to the beginning. At this point, I realize most of you are thinking, we get it, we get it. You force the card, you reveal it on any page of a book. But this is where, if I could impart one thing to you tonight, it would be, just in a very general sense, the details are what separate, I think, good magic from great magic. So yes, you could just force it and reveal it, and you'd have the general gestalt of the trick. But I'm going to show you a force that I think does a lot to strengthen the effect. And it's created just for this trick. So you have the 43 of hearts and your 12 in different cards. And here it is. You put 6 in different cards on the bottom, 6 in different cards on the top. So 6, 40, and 6 make 52. Plus one thing more. This is such a cool idea. It's by Al Baker. It's great for any memorized deck tricks, trick decks, stack deck tricks. Pencil dot an indifferent card. One of the top 6 in different cards. And then stick that in the middle of the deck. You'll see why in a moment. So here's the deal, guys. There are 4 subtleties I'm going to use that subtly show the deck as normal without ever saying, ladies and gentlemen, a deck of cards. They're just 4 times that you see a lot of faces or faces and backs in ways that are important without ever having to say it. And here they are, the 4 of them. The first thing I say is, normally I have somebody from the back just call stop, but since you're so close, Ben, in a moment, and I'm showing you 4, 5, 6, 7 faces here and here, right? But in a moment, Ben, I'll just ask you to come up here and touch a card. You can touch any card you want. When you settle on a card, show it around, and we'll have somebody else name the number. I just reached inside a whole deck of 3 of hearts and pulled out the only different card. It's like a magic trick just for me. I put that on top, and now you're in the cleanest position in the world. You can say, please touch any card. And that's much better than any riffle force or classic force that you would do, because the cards are on the table. He can come up, he can change his mind, he can touch one and then change it to this one. So you see where these details slowly start to build and accumulate? So he touches any card, and of course it's the 3 of hearts. Any questions so far?
What if they choose that?
What do you, oh, you mean like on the very?
Yeah.
So just so they hear the question, he asks, so you put it like this, and you say touch any card. What if they touch one of the top or bottom 6 from your stack? The short answer is that never happens. I mean, almost never happens. But if it did, and it has happened to me a few times, always remember you're in control. Okay, so I'll show you. And I just thought of this on the spot. I didn't have like a great method, but I thought of this one the first time it ever happened to me. Ben, please touch any card. Let's just film it. And now be bad and touch a bad card. So he's touching the third from the bottom. What you want to go through your head, here, stay up here for a second. What you want to go through your head is panic, but you have to just totally stay in control. So please, I just continue the trick as if it's normal. Please take out any card that you like. Go ahead and show it around. Wonderful. And we're going to get somebody else to... Oh, sorry, I dropped it. I saw that one. Do you mind grabbing a different one? Right?
Right.
And now you're into it. So you just work, it's just a little workaround. There's a great DVD. I'm sure Penguin carries it. You should pick it up. This is my advice to you. This is the best DVD ever done on magic as far as the learning curve. You can learn more from this DVD than anything else, and it doesn't teach you any tricks. It's all performance. It's Tom Mullica's Showtime at the Tomfoolery. It's an hour and a half of a performance by one of the most singular characters in close-up magic. He just rocks it out from behind a bar. And on that tape is him making a mistake and missing a classic force. And his recovery is also great, depending on it. And he did this. So you see him on the thing. He goes over, please pick a card for this next one. And the girl goes for the top card. And so he goes with it. Again, he doesn't, that's where I learned. He just cannot let it get to you for even a second. He goes, great, and show it around, please. Write your name on it. For this next one, we're going to get 2 cards picked. And now, of course, he hits it. He's going to make sure he hits the force, but now he's got 2 cards. And he says, we're going to find 2 cards in this next trick. One the easy way and one the hard way. First, we'll find yours the easy way. Well, there it is. And now we'll find yours the hard way. And it just goes on with whatever trick he was doing, So there's always a way out. You never, ever, ever have to fear. Okay? So, here you are with the 3 of hearts, right? It goes into the middle of the deck. I make a big deal about that, as you saw. Put them on the table because, of course, you don't have to control it. They're all the 3 of hearts, right? Now you have somebody name a number. So let's say they name 15. You're going to do some very basic estimation. You're going to estimate 15 in this case from the bottom of the deck. It doesn't have to be precise. It doesn't even have to be close. You have a 12-card window. Remember that. So this is estimation within anybody's reach. So I think that's about 15, and I'm estimating with a pinky I have no feeling in. So I'm sure everybody here can do it with feeling in their fingers. So you do that. Now you do a pass or a cut, whatever you like. And now you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Not to brag, but my estimation was perfect on both the performance and just now. You'll know your estimation is perfect because you get the marked card again, right? You know you get exactly 15 if when you cut it 15 and then you count, you get back to what was on top. So that happened both nights. I do that. But it's better when you're off to show you. So whatever. You're here. The third subtlety, remember we already did 2 subtleties, then the card was picked. The third subtlety is 14, 15, any card at any number. Oh. Sorry, Ben. It's 15 and then... Right? Wait. Was one of these? Was I off? Oh, sorry, it's probably over here. Is it not the queen? Ace, maybe? Or 4? Did anybody else see the card? It should be here. So now think about that. I'm not taking cards from the top and bottom of the deck. I'm taking them from precisely the position they called out. The 15, 16, 17, 14, 13. You see? By doing that little estimation, you've moved that indifferent card block to wherever position they name. So it really kind of works. All those bad magic competition acts you've seen over the years when they miss and they kind of fumble on stage, take your cue from that to how to handle how it would be if you messed up. And so you're showing all these cards. And I have to tell you, I believe that when you show all these indifferent cards, the last thing they're thinking is that you're using a one-way force deck. I know that's a long way to go to force one friggin' card, but do you see the difference it makes from just a riffle force? Now you can show your hands empty, call attention to the book, flip through 50 normal pages, flip through all the pages with the card, show that the one is there at the named page number, take it out, show all the ones with the Roman numerals on it, and that's my little version of any card at any number. Questions at all? Yes? Let's hear it. Anything? Okay, cool.
That was fantastic. I think it's taking online a couple minutes to catch up
Oh, okay.
to your thought process.
So what do? Do we move on or do we wait for
Yeah,
online?
absolutely. You can move on. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do this one. I don't know if I have a full deck. So what I'd like to do next, just to clue everybody in, is do some sort of unplugged stuff. Just do some more difficult but hopefully interesting regular deck card stuff. We've so far covered a lot of parlor, and we're going to do a little bit more parlor, but for right now I was just going to do some seated close-up card magic. Can you see from where you're viewing? And can the camera do kind of a just going to be focused in this area? Let's use an ace for this, and not just one ace. Let's actually use all four. Nobody cares, fine. We'll use four other cards. They can be anything. What do you want them to be? Nines, tens, what do you want? Jacks, that'll be perfect. There's the four jacks. Cool. So, four aces. Yeah, that's great. Four aces and four jacks. Don't think of these cards like aces and jacks. Think of these cards like oil and water. Oil goes between water. Jacks between aces. If we wait just a moment. They separate out completely. Okay. Try that again. Aces between jacks. And at this moment, everybody thinks the same thing. I don't know what you did, but I think it's already done. But you see, it's not already done. They really do alternate aces and jacks until they separate out completely. Like that. So, so far we've made oil and water separate. Would you name either aces or jacks?
Aces.
Aces, perfect. I won't touch the jacks. Watch the aces up until the last moment. Watch them, watch them, watch them. As they change into jacks, that's oil through water. All right. Okay. I wanted to include this. This is... These are three separate routines from my column in Magic Magazine. So I write this column. I just celebrated 10 years doing it. I was here at Ohio State when I started, and it's 6 or 7 tricks every month. And as has always happened since I started and will continue way after I'm dead and everybody in here is dead, people will overlook what's in print, because it's really easy to make a great trailer of a move or a routine, but to read what you just saw doesn't read that exciting. And then when you see it, everybody's first question is, that was in your column? What month? I want to buy it. It's like, you know. So I just want to show you a few things, maybe we'll do some more later, from the column to kind of show you that yes, there are great things in print, and they don't always read as exciting as they look, but that's the nature of the game. It's the printed word. So here's an example of 3 different things from 3 different years, 3 different creators that I kind of strung together and modified, as I'll show you, that make a really nice, tight visual 1 minute long oil and water. And you'll grasp this very quickly. So let's go through part one. Part one is a William Estone idea from France. It is very similar to something Jerry Sadowitz did, and it's called easy oil. So you just take any 2 4-of-a-kinds. You get a break above 2 and below 6. And when you do this little move of flipping apparently the jacks and the aces over, you really flip 2 and then 6, and that displaced 2 jacks from top to bottom. If you separate then at the 4 and 4 mark and you just do this, look, interlacing, what you're really doing is you're putting the jacks between the jacks and the aces back between the aces. Now, one little subtle point, this is my friend Andy Gladwin came up with this. I in-jog these, this is exaggerated for you. These are pushed in further than these so that you can do this little sweet little move. When you come in like this, you can push those flush, and now you can turn these over and apparently give them a view of jacks going into aces, which is like a nice little moment. And then you get this first separation. Okay? Piece of cake. Break on 2, flip over, and you're done. Now we go into an Ed Marlowe move, which Bill Malone showed me one time. It was never published. And then I think we figured out the basic idea was put in one of the Marlowe magazines. So this is great because this cancels out what you just did. What you just did was a switch, but now you really do mix jacks and aces together. And you let them see you do it. And you let them really see that they are mixed, jacks and aces, until they separate out completely. And that's kind of a slick little move because you're doing it right when they watch you. And let me show you again. Are we getting a tight shot on that? I want to make sure you can... there's the shot. Okay, so all that happens is you go up, down, and you're showing that they're mixed. And then you show they're unmixed. And that is this. You go down, but when you push over, you create this little gap there. So that when any cards that you're down jogging, any aces, you put them between the ace and the jack. So those go between, those go under. Those go between, those go under. Those go between, that goes under. And it looks like the perfect illusion of cards interwoven, but what you've actually got, if you stopped time, is 2 fans just lying one on top of the other. See that? So it looks really great. You square from the side, then top to bottom, and you really get this almost visual oil and water phase. Okay? Any questions on that, or are we good to go? Good.
Can you do the first move for the evening?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the first move, you're here. Best if the jacks alternate in color. Square up, getting a break above 2. So you're here. You get a break above 2. Now I take 6, flip over 2, and the 6. And then when you do this, you're just putting those jacks back between the jacks. You do Andy's little idea of kicking those in so that you can slowly show they go in. And that gives you the first one. Then you mix face down. Always mix face down. Why? You could show it face up, but you mix face down so you have a reason to turn it over and do the move. If you mix them face up, you'd have no reason to go back through and up jog them. And now you get there. Okay? We're going to move on to phase 3? Cool. Phase 3 is you turn the jacks face down and put them back to back with the aces. So you have jacks below, aces above. And you do a basic switch. This whole sequence is by Yannick Chrétien, a French magician. You peel 1, flip over, peel 2, flip over, peel 3, flip over. It looks like you're going to take the 4th one, but you really do a packet for packet switch. Packet for packet switch. And flip that over. So now there are 3 aces here. Here there are 4 jacks with an ace on top. So at speed, it looks like this. And you cover it with a little question. You say, look, we've got the aces, and you can choose aces or jacks. Which do you want? And whatever they say, you put the 3 cards that are the jacks here. And now you do an Elmsley count, and you catch a break on the last 2, so that you're going to create an impromptu double-faced card with an ace on one side and a jack on the other. Cut that to the bottom, side jogged, and now I'm going to grab that double facer as I move forward like this, and I'm going to drop this double facer, which is normal, you know what I'm saying, back-to-back cards, the double. I drop it on top of the packet 1 split second before I turn these over, and what happens is you get a visual change from aces to jacks. But what you really get is this is going to clean you up, because that ace, watch, falls face down right on top of the other aces, so that when you do this, it leaves you totally clean. All right. How are we feeling? Yeah? A couple more things. Let me show you this. This is like, if you have a table, this is kind of a pretty effect to do. Hopefully you can kind of come front and center on that camera. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. Watch very carefully. Thank you very much. Didn't look like much, but I memorized the position of the 4 aces. Rather than just cut them out for you, I thought, since everybody's watching and it was nice enough to come out or watch from home, I would try a more difficult task and shuffle face up into face down. So some are toward the ceiling and some are toward the floor. Now it's much harder to find those aces because you have cards facing every direction. We'll try for 3 the easy way, 1 the hard way. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. 3 the easy way, last 1 the hard way. That's straightening out every card in the deck except for 1. Last ace. Okay. So, this is a little triumph that I came up with. It's fun to do on a table because it's just quick, and once you're out of it, you're on to whatever trick you're doing with 4 aces. So it's based on a Tom Gagnon move, which he gave me permission years ago to teach, and that was really nice of him. It's a bottom deal, but from the top of the deck. So it's a pretty unique bottom deal. Gravity does most of the work. It's easier than you think. That's it. What I'm doing right now is the move. And all it is this. If you're at home, put the deck on the table and grab the deck from above with your right hand and grab cards like this from above. And as you lift off with your first finger, you're going to scoot the top card off the deck and create a little bit of air between it like this, right? And all that's going to happen is you're going to let it fall out of your hand. You just fall. He likes to say you open up at about 2 o'clock, like that. Okay? And that's all it is. And it really gives you this great illusion that the card is just falling out from wherever you cut. Now, it doesn't look that great if you just do it like this. But even if you just want to use this move to cut the 4 aces, it looks so good when you add the other hand in to just kind of confuse the issue. So you can just say, look, we need 1, 2, 3, and 4 aces for this next one. And it's like a real slick way of cutting the cards out that's pretty believable. So what I realize is that there's so much more you can do with this move. You could use it as a force, say stop right there, put your name on that card for me. You can use it this way in the hands and do it vertically and just do the same move like that. And I realize that it makes a really nice triumph. So there's a lot of really cool moments that you might be able to use in this. So let's go through it real fast. You take 4 aces, put them face down on the face-up deck, and then just take any one card and cover it. So I do this little gag at the beginning, but it serves an important purpose. I say, watch carefully. Thank you very much. But the real reason I do that is to show there are no face-down cards. You know, almost every triumph you've ever seen begins with the cards reversed, so you have to be very, very careful, and they always start like this with what's called the Tenkai Optical Revolve from Tarbell 3. But in this one, you are showing both sides of the deck very clearly, just not spreading those face-down cards there. Now, if you combine a halo cut, which is a bottom slip cut, with Tenkai's Optical Revolve, it's a bazillion times more powerful. You just do this, cutting away that bottom card with your hand as you turn over, and it's so much more deceptive than if it was just always on the bottom reversed. I lived in France. I studied abroad for a year, and it was just Ohio State still has that program. I can tell you a story about how they had to change policies after my time there, but that's not exactly relevant to the point. But what is relevant to the point is the whole reason I went over was really to study with Babel and the other French magicians. This is a Babel technique I'm showing you. It's never been in print. It's a really sweet little move. You're in this position, and there are a million triumphs where you're in this position, so that you can use this with lots of things. It's just this little idea. Isn't that sweet? You grab with the right hand, you grab 3 or 4 cards, and with the left hand you grab a bunch, and you dribble them like this, and it just is such a subtle way of showing face up and face down, you know? Which I think is really, really, really convincing. And now you just mix those cards in, keeping the top 4 face down on top, and that leaves you, of course, with 4 face down. And now guess what? Here's the cool thing. This is why the same thing in Prism, which we already talked about. Same thing in Hitchcock, where the method, the presentation, everything works in a sort of a symbiotic relationship. They all help each other out. This cutting action, you have to do it to cut the cards out, but look what else it's doing. It's allowing you to show faces, backs, backs to faces, back to back. Look how, as the aces come out, you see so many different faces and backs. And that helps make the thing look so confused. You do the move 3 times, which leaves just 1 ace in the deck, kind of tilted toward the top, which is perfect if you make a little row, because then the last ace comes out right in place, and you have a nice triumph for the table. Let's just riff for a second. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'll share this with you. This is another one from the column by Reinhard Müller, and this is, I think, a great thing. So you would have somebody take any card, doesn't matter what it is. What is that? 8 of hearts. Guys can come up maybe from the center shot there. So here's what we'll do. We will do it this way. We'll turn half face down, half face up, and we'll give a little mix. So of course some are down, some are up, some are down, some are up. Okay. So that is, I realize, not a major routine, but as a little quickie, what a sweet little thing to do, and it couldn't possibly be easier. And it's just this. You have any card controlled with a break. You cut half over here, the selection remains there. And look at this. You turn half the deck face up, selection is there, and you do this formation. And at this point, guys, to me, this is the strongest setup for triumph. At this point, you have to zero the cards or do a push-through shuffle. That's like the only option. And yet, Reinhard Müller from Germany came up with this beautiful little addition, which is simply this. As I collect the cards up, there's this moment when the packets touch. And in that moment, you can get this angle over here. In that moment, with my right thumb, beautiful, I simply slide over one card, and that does everything for you. Here's the great moment. This is the moment that's totally deceptive, but it's a great optical illusion. You just do that. And that's it. Now everything's face up except the selection. So you give a little shuffle, false cut or 2, and you get a slick little sweet 30-second triumph, which I think is pretty nice. Yeah, so one more thing I'll just show you here. We'll do it for this camera. Say stop. Somebody, stop. 7 of hearts. Everybody can remember 7 of hearts at home? I'll try and cause it to rise out of the pack. If you can do a zoom right in. Yeah, that's good. Watch as it rises from the... Oh, sorry, that's not your 7 of hearts. That's your 7 of hearts. All right. So I'm going to teach you the control and the color change. I came up with the control in an airport for exactly the reason that I think it's useful, which is I didn't have anywhere to sit. I was like huddled in some line, and I thought, okay, what if I had to control a card and I couldn't deal it down and then put it in the deck? What would you do? And that sort of brought about this action. Well, I'd turn it over, and then I guess I'd put it back. So I came up with this control, which is something that the Bucks, I showed the Bucks, and they used in a trick called TiVo, whatever they call it. And now everybody, when I do this move, goes, oh, very well, you're doing the Bucks move. Yeah, okay. But so here it is. One thing I got to meet, I was very lucky. When I was very young, I got to meet Larry Jennings toward the end of his life. And he was incredible, and I love his books. And he showed me something that I later published in Magic Magazine that's never been in print. And this is going to improve your card magic 10%. Truly. Because it conquers a problem. It totally eliminates a problem that I see almost everybody have in their card work. And that is this. When you hold a break, 1 card, 4 cards on top of the deck, almost everybody flashes. They don't think they do. It's one of the many blind spots with magicians. It's kind of like this one. They think that like nobody sees that move. And even if a layman doesn't know what it is, it's like, what is that supposed to be before you turn a card over? What Larry told me, because I was doing some trick, and he goes, you realize you flashed the break the whole time. Because I was using this. I was using, let's say, a little finger break. And when you transfer that to the thumb, it may not flash for the camera, but I guarantee you everybody in the audience who's to my left and my right gets a big flash here and here. We are going to, from this moment forward, eliminate the thumb break. Instead, we're going to use what's called an Erdnase break. Almost never taught. It's mentioned in card college, but nobody uses this in day-to-day use, and you should. Because look at this. Does that look pretty good? That look pretty good from this angle, from this angle? Look, the break is here. It's totally covered. Now, I'm not only going to show you the Erdnase break, which has been around since Erdnase, but I'm going to show you how Larry Jennings gets into it, which is what makes it so practical. The reason nobody used it ever and continues not to use it is because this was the way they used to teach you to get into it. If you want to get on 4, well, that looks terrible to scoot that card under here. Here's how Larry would get into it. You get a break on 4 any way you like. I would use a pinky break, right? But now, when you want to transfer it, what he figured out is this. If you push on that little flesh break, if you just push, look what happens if we get a zoom right in tight on this. If you push back here at that pinky break, this beautiful angle, do you see how it pops up there? It just pops. See? It's here and it pops. So as I transfer the cards from my left hand into my right hand, if I push here, it pops right up into my pinky, and now I've got a seamless break. And I mean, I can brag about this because it's not my move. It's 100% Larry Jennings, and I'm sure he'd want it shared with everybody so that everybody's breaks can improve. But this is the real work. I mean, this is like, I had to be in a hotel room with Larry Jennings. That sounds wrong. I had to be, you know, it was my moment with Larry Jennings where he showed me this wonderful, wonderful tip. And I think that this will improve everybody's magic because no longer do you have to do these kind of weird breaks and stuff like this to add on. Just always use the Erdnase break. Okay, end of that, because that's what you're going to use here. I get a break on 1, transfer it to an Erdnase break. Now I dribble the cards until somebody stops me. 2 fingers. I take these 2 fingers and turn over. As I turn this top card over, do you see? We're going to be doing a bluff pass. The way a bluff pass was always done in the old books was you'd do this. You'd say stop, and please put your card back. And the idea was you would be putting it back unknowingly right on top of the deck, just 1 card cover. But that's a pretty risky thing to do, you know what I mean? Like over here, I'd be flashing to everybody. So what I've come up with in this control is a control that covers the bluff pass, because this card now shields that bad angle from over there. You can't tell how thick that packet is. So when I do this, there's that moment when I turn it up that I can drop all the cards below my ace break and then gingerly flip that over, and you've controlled it second from the top. So it looks like this. So you've got your break, ace break, dribble, there it is, and now it's second from the top. Okay? I add this little bit. This is an Aaron Fisher idea. As you come together, you just move the thumb up, and it gives that great illusion that the packets never actually touch. So it's here, whoops, then there, flip, and you dribble. And the nice thing is, it's a really casual control. I use it all the time, even for multiple cards in a row. Just say stop, and they look, and it goes back in the deck, and it's somewhere in the pack. Okay? Now we come to the Dotel change. This is my version of a change by Jules Dotel. Almost unheard of. Very few people know it. We made a download of it on Vanishing Ink, but you're getting it for free right now. So here it is. With my index finger, you're going to do a great move that used to be used as a production, this one here, just like to produce a selected card or something. But instead, you're going to do it twice in a row. So you do it once, and you say, oh, sorry, that's not your card, that's your card. So it's just once up, and then twice up. So it's once there, twice. So you just do it, and then as it comes up, you square it against the other card. So it's just, okay, from the back, boom. That's a knacky thing. That's tough to do. And then once you square it, that's what you're doing, is you're squaring the card there. Pick the double off, put it on the face, and deal it off. All right? Questions at all on anything so far?
Josh, I almost wish you were a little worse at explaining this stuff, so I had some more questions for you. But one question that we got is, at the beginning of, I believe, the Oil and Water, I think you produced, was it a Jack and some nines, or?
Yeah, Jack and Aces.
Jack and Aces. How did you produce those?
Sure. I'm happy to take you through it. I'll just warn you that they're both not the kind of things you can probably grasp in real time. So hopefully you can go back and reference this. So I used 2 productions. I changed them out. I hope I'm explaining the right ones. I don't remember which I did, but I think I did these. Let's talk about this one first. The first one is 1 ace face up, 3 face down. 3 down, 1 up, okay? And this was something showed to me by Olmec, a French magician, but he later said that I changed it when I did it. So apparently this isn't what he's doing, but it's similar. You toss over 1 using this move by Paul Harris, which is just shooting the card over. I think we all know that, right? It's the instant replay, you know, when it goes 2. So you do that. That's the 1. And now you get a break on 1 here, and you steal 2. As you turn this hand over, I peel that down, stick this into the gap. This is about to get hairy. Come from the side. There you go. I stick this into the gap, and then this thumb my left thumb pins down the card as I turn over, and at the same time, this ace here goes up. I realize that has got to be the ugliest explanation of all time, but it's just this, stealing 2, here and there, and it looks like you rip 1 into 4. And that's the first one. And then this is by my friend Joel Givens, a great magician from North Carolina. It's a very little known production. If you did this, you'd be the only one doing it, I promise you that. I get a break on, so the setup is both pairs of jacks face to face. I get a break on 2. Now I swivel those top 2 over, so the packets are the same, 2 jacks face to face on each one. And now you turn the packets face up and you go 1, 2, 3, and you do the same thing with both hands. You do this, 2, 3. All you're doing is moving that top card around and up, and you get the 4 jacks. And that's those are the 2 productions. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. All right. So, any other?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I'm not sure if it was an angle thing, but could you do the color change, the rising color change, slowly and from maybe the back or the side or something?
Like the exposed view? So
Yeah,
see how it's done?
exposed view, yeah.
So it's
Or actually, maybe the exposed view is not as easy to see as maybe a slow motion version of the
okay.
front view.
So we come this way.
So you're pulling it with your index finger,
Index finger both
swiveling
times.
around your thumb.
I'm bowing index so I can get just 1, and then I'm bowing here to get just 1. So as you, the idea is that hopefully your hand covers it as it comes up. You know, here to there.
Great, it's beautiful.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right. If I can get the 2 of you to help me out. Come on, Ben and Ashley. Yay. All right. If you could each take a card. Don't look at it. Instead, come on in so that you can stay tight with the camera. Tear it into 4 pieces and put the pieces here. I am going to do a trick 2 ways at the same time. First, the way a mentalist would do it, and at the same time, the way a magician would do it. Go ahead and set the pieces here, and tear up another card each. That's great. A mentalist would say, I have an envelope. Inside the envelope is just 1 card. I'm going to be giving this envelope away with the card in it at the end, so you're sure that there's just 1 card. I won't touch it again. Ashley, we'll start with you. Take all those pieces in your hand. All the pieces, the piles, that's good. And I want you to hold them over the table and slowly let them fall bit by bit, drop by drop. And some will fall up, some will fall down. We're interested only in the pieces that fall up. Ones that fall down will get eliminated. Yeah, just totally randomly. So we've got a few. That's great. And Ben? It's Ben, right?
Yeah.
Your turn next. Take those pieces. These are eliminated. And let them drop. And you're going to continue to alternate. Card by card. They fall on the floor, they don't count. So I don't even want to touch. Would you just separate the face down and the face up and take the face up ones? Good. And just keep them low to the floor or to the table so they don't fall. Beautiful. Oh, okay. We're down to 1. Maybe the table can pick up that that's the Jack of Spades. Now think of it this way. You tore up cards. You let them fall through your hands. I didn't do any of the elimination procedure. I couldn't control how you tear them, the contour of the pieces, so how they would fall. Therefore, I couldn't possibly know that there would be 1 card, the Jack of Spades, in the envelope. But I said I would do this trick 2 ways at the same time. A mentalist would predict the future. but a magician would change the past. This actually is the card you tore up, completely restored, and of course a perfect fit. Give them a round of applause. And at that point, you can give them the envelope and they can take it with them and take it home. All right, so I do this trick now for you because it has some sentimental value for this reason. 2 years ago, this August, I was boating here in Ohio. My parents live on a lake. I was visiting my parents, and I was water skiing. And I was steered into a buoy, a metal buoy, at 55 miles an hour. And I had a direct impact with the buoy, and my knee, my hip, my ribs, my elbow, and my arm all had direct contact with the metal. And I would have died instantly if my head or my back or my neck had made contact. So it was lucky in that sense. So I had injuries all on my left side, and the worst of it was my arm. Broke both bones in my arm in 2 places, and the wrist, which is some of the densest bones in the body, I broke 4 of the 7 bones in my wrist, 2 of which were shattered and completely replaced with titanium. So I had to have 3 surgeries in about a month period. I spent weeks in the hospital. I had ulnar nerve damage, so I still don't have much feeling in this part of my hand. And I spent a lot of time on my back thinking I would probably not be able to do magic anymore, which was horrific. And yet, this trick, which is neither here nor there, but this trick was one of the things that I could do with one hand in a cast, looking up on crazy meds. I could still do this trick. So if you're looking for something that from the lecture that is totally, totally, totally easy, but yet still strong, I hope you'll find it in this. But also for me, it represented a way of thinking about magic with certain obstacles. You know, certain people say, I want to do this, but without a gaff deck. I want to do this, but I don't want to use cards. I had to say, I've got all these great magicians coming to visit, all these family members coming to visit. I don't want to be a charity case. I don't want to be sitting there. I want to be able to show magic to people in my hospital room. So as soon as I got home and was able to kind of like get out of bed for a little bit and be wheeled around, this was the trick I started doing. Again, we take a classic premise, the Marcello Truzzi idea of a double-headed like coin, you know, when they do the coin thing that makes the year change. But by doing it with a fragment of card, just like with a watch trick, you get the classic effect, but then you get a bonus effect, which should, I hope, if you thought about it a little more, fooled you. So here's what you do. You need a double-sided, by the way, they take the envelope home and they open it up and they really do have a jack of spades that fits, and it's normal, it's the only thing in the envelope, okay? It's a little bit more complicated than you're first thinking, because a double-faced piece, where did I put it? A double-faced piece is an impossible object, right? If you tear off this corner of the card, you would have a back. If it was a double-faced card, if you tore off this corner, think about it, you would have that. You would have a non-index corner. A jack on one side and a card that would be hard to tell what it is on the other side. It would look like this, right? How do you have a jack on both sides? It will not work if you simply print, I'm trying to show you, it's hard to explain. You can't simply print a J over here. It'll look bizarre because it'll look like a mirror image, a lefty deck or something. How do you do this? I think it was the crazy, crazy pain meds I was on that led to this discovery. I thought of this. If you glue a card in this formation, then and only then, when you tear it off, will you have an index in one corner and an index in the other. You see what's going on there? So now that I've explained that to you, that was the big breakthrough. The way you do the trick is this. You create this setup where you glue two jacks back to back in this way, and then you take any old jack and you line it up like this. And now you tear through everything together. And then you discard the glued part. What you end up with is a real jack with a back on it, with a regular piece that matches it, and a duplicate piece that matches it that's double-faced. Okay? Everybody kind of follow that? The regular piece just floats in your envelope, and it's your cleanup. It's never seen, but it's there, so you end clean. The card goes in like this, and I make the envelopes I use just out of fancy-looking paper because it allows me to make, it's just, these are the kind of details I like. If you read the Books of Wonder and the Workers series, you find these same kinds of ideas. It allows me to make a little secret pocket for that piece so I don't have to start palming it. I can literally get into this right under fire by showing the envelope and then stealing the piece off as I put it down. Just makes performing easier. I don't have to think about it. It's there, ready to be stolen. So now you have everybody surrounding your hospital bed or wherever you're doing this trick take a card, and it's cool. 4 people, 3 people, 5 people, and they all tear up cards and throw them into the pile. And the cool thing is you're in no rush to palm this in. You get this in, you have many opportunities whenever it feels right. So they drop pieces, and some fall up and some fall down. You can say, Ben, I don't want to touch it. Just separate the face down from the face up, and you do it again. And so they do it. And then maybe this time when I go to hand it to Ashley, I just help her out, and I say, here, you do it this time. And I load the double-faced piece inside. Boom. And you're left with Jack. Okay? Show the envelope. Always, 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 I show the back first. Not that any layman really is familiar with the principle, but it's still in the back of their mind. If they see a back, you could never show a back, typically. So that's important. And then I show that it's got a jack on it. Take that jack out, and I love the line, mentalist versus magician. A mentalist predicts the future. A magician changes the past. Card you tore up is restored back together. Absolutely a perfect match. And you show that that's a perfect match. And then the only thing left to do is you take the piece behind the card, drop it inside, stealing out the piece, close it up, and you can give them the envelope if they want to check it out or open it up. And because of that piece floating in there, you're finishing clean. Okay, that's called prediction piece. What time do you have? What time do you have?
11:30.
Seriously?
Well,
Okay.
semi-serious. It's 11:20.
Okay. Well, then let's do this. I've got one more thing I definitely want to show you. I can take requests. I'm happy to go as long as you want, but let's make sure that if there's somebody out there who has a question or something they absolutely want to see. I brought a lot with me, so.
There's one trick that keeps getting mentioned,
Uh-oh.
and that is a ring and wine glass.
Oh, okay. This is from my one-man show. That I don't have things to do with.
Well, I tried.
Yeah, you tried. So I have a one-man show. It's called Unreal. I probably can't say this, but I'll say it anyway. I think it's pretty well confirmed that I'll be doing it at FISM. So they're going to bring the whole show to Europe for a week, and I'll do about 10 performances in Europe at FISM. So you might be able to check it out there. But it's a one-man show that I played in 5 cities around the country. It's a very autobiographical, personal show. It's my favorite thing to do. It's a delight to do. It's all video integrated. Every single trick is introed by a video every trick is a story. We went back and found all sorts of ex-girlfriends, most of them live in this city, and interviewed them for one of the pieces about magic as a pickup thing, and making fun of that. And there's a piece on Hitchcock. There's a piece on doing a trick backwards inspired by a great artist named William Kentridge, who's spoken at this university. And everything in it is very personal. And one of the things I do is I borrow a wedding band from somebody in the audience and link it to a wine glass, which is significant only because I use a wine glass. If you look up the imagery of the show, the wine glass is like the image on all of the things, and I use it in some way in every trick in the show. Sometimes it holds the deck of cards like a houlette. Sometimes it holds other objects. I make a bill disappear into it in a ball of fire. So that wine glass is used all throughout the show, and then I link it to the woman, usually a woman's wedding band, wedding ring, and I send her home with this sort of little spiel where I say, you have a dilemma. In magic, the dilemma is always proof. It's intangible. Magic happens and then it goes away. You now have proof. You can take this home and show people, look, I went to Josh Jay's show and now my wedding band is on this glass. And everybody laughs, and then I say, but of course you're going to want your wedding ring back, or he's going to want it back. And when you do, you're going to be faced with a dilemma. You're going to have to break this glass. And as soon as you do, all you'll be left with is a memory. And because the whole thing is about memory in my show, so that's the trick. But no, I can't do it right now.
What?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Josh,
It's,
it sounds completely impossible.
It took a long time, and it took working with a glass manufacturer to work out, a way to make it practical. It's still not a very practical trick. It cost me a bloody fortune to do. But
So is this a trick that you perform but don't teach?
yeah, definitely.
It sounds incredible. I mean, I say incredible too often
Right.
for it to do that description
Well,
justice.
I guess the great compliment / insult was at Magic Live, they do like a spoof on the last day. I did the show at Magic Live, which is the only time I've done it for magicians. And the rumors going around was that my show is full of stooges, which my team, which is Vinny DePonto, Ken Weber, a few people that helped, we took that as the ultimate compliment, that people thought the bill trick, the prediction in the beginning, and the ring and wine glass were all stooge. They just, it's an insult because they're wrong, but it's also a compliment that 3 things in the show fooled magicians bad enough that they're writing that it's all stooge. They can come to any show anywhere in the world I do and see it every night, and it's not, it's legit. So
That's awesome.
yeah. Any other things? Yes.
I guess when I was taking a headliner show a couple years ago, I missed the lecture at Magic Fest, and I kept hearing about a 3-point trick you do.
Yeah, I'll do it as the last thing we do tonight, so that'll be covered for sure. Anything else?
How do you think of the story behind routines? Like, how do you start?
That's an interesting question. The question was, how do you think of the story behind a routine? Do you mean like the presentation, or do you mean like the plot?
Yeah, both.
I guess I would say that the thing that's important to me is that it's relatable and that it communicates something about me or about us or about the world. And that sounds really lofty and crazy mystery school-ish, but it's actually very grounded in reality. Every piece in my one-man show is about something that happened to me in my life, my injury, ex-girlfriends, my favorite director, something like that. Certain tricks that I do just off the cuff relate to something that's a common problem. I like there to be some common thread. You won't typically see me do things where 4 aces will play 4 robbers and go through, you know what I mean? I don't really respond to that kind of thing. I just saw the neuroscientist Eric Kandel speak. He wrote this great book called The Age of Insight. You should totally check it out. It's about where art and science meet. And in his little talk in New York, which was about an hour long, I came up with 3 routines that I will actually use often. Not just little ideas that might get, like, I have now been working on each of them for a few months, and I'm going to be trying out every single one of them. So I go to all these talks and read these books in the hopes that something will inspire, you know? Yeah.
Do you want to answer some questions before your final trick and have that be the last thing you do?
I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I wasn't clear on that. All right, I just have a few then.
Yeah, great. Let's do them.
You can answer them as in depth or as quickly as you like. The first one is so it's 2 parts here. Your stage persona seems to be a young, good-looking guy with a great sense of humor. That seems to be kind of the character that you've built for yourself.
He's hitting on me.
What are your thoughts on creating an onstage persona that is genuine?
Wow, good question. I think it's good.
I mean, when you're on stage, when you're performing,
Right.
are you just
I'm me.
Just Jay?
I'm me. I'm always me.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't speak in value judgments. You know, I think in magic too often everybody's trying to sell you their medicine and tell you the way it's got to be. But clearly, if you really look hard, you can see everybody breaking every rule and making it work. You see a guy like Rudy Kobe, whose stage persona is nothing like the person, and it works great. And you see Eugene Berger, who puts on a character that's quite different from the real Eugene, and it works great. But then you see examples like Darren Brown, who, if you meet him, is exactly like his stage persona, and it's amazing. And me. People know I step out and I'm the exact same person. What you're hearing is me, whether the camera's there or not, or the audience is there or not. So I don't think there's a rule for that. It certainly is more convenient to be yourself on stage than to have to become a cartoon character or something like that. So, yeah.
Can you describe your creative process, how you approach magic?
Not really. No, I mean, I wish I could.
This is going to be a really fast Q&A. This is good.
No,
'Cause
yeah.
there's several questions.
Okay,
I'll just move on.
I'll latch on to one I can say more about. I mean, the best I can say, and I'm not trying to be difficult to this person because it's a great question, and I think a lot about process, but the last 2.5 hours, I've tried to give you glimpses into my process for each trick and how a movie inspired a trick, how an injury inspired creating around a trick, how taking any card, any number, and looking at the things I don't like inspires a whole new trick. I mean, every trick I've tried to give you the process behind it, and hopefully by now you've seen 14 or 15 examples of it, but I hope you can also see they're always different.
Okay, no, it was a dumb question.
No, not a dumb
No.
question at all. Just not one that's easily answered.
No, thank you very much. No, that was great. What are your thoughts on the too perfect theory?
You know,
And just to summarize for the audience, in case somebody out there doesn't know, too perfect theory is the idea in magic that if a trick is just too impossible, then the audience's brain kind of shuts down and says, oh, that's not even based on anything. It's just too impossible. And
the guy named Johnson that originally espoused the theory, his quote was, "Some tricks by virtue of their perfection become imperfect, and some tricks by virtue of their imperfection become perfect." That was the idea he posited. Yeah, you know, I think Tommy Wonder had the best quote about that. And his point was, magicians need to stop worrying about that problem and just focus on making their magic great. His point was that most magicians' magic is far from too perfect, and so that's not what they need to be worrying about. Lucky is the magician who has to say, my stuff is so strong, I must weaken it slightly to make it more believable. Most magicians have the opposite problem. But we deal with that in my show. I do some things that I think border on so impossible, so clean. With electronics, that certainly opens up some things that are so incredibly clean you have to almost put layers around it. Yeah.
Do you combine card flourishes in performance?
Not really. I was super against it for the longest time. And then I sort of started messing with them just because it was a new challenge and something to keep my hands from being idle. But no, I don't combine it a lot. But I have no problem with magicians who do. Again, too much emphasis is put on whether you should or shouldn't put flourishes into their acts. The magicians who talk endlessly about this, I know a lot of them, would be better served practicing and performing their act a little more than worrying about whether a flourish is impacting their results 10% because they're flashing and poor construction's influencing their results 50%. You know what I mean? It's just not... It can work both ways, I think. What do you guys think? Yeah? I guess.
I'm intimidated now. I'm deleting a bunch of questions.
No, I don't mean to be shrugging them off.
I was totally kidding. No, I had another one that was like, how do you create an engaging presentation for your tricks? And again, the way that you've kind of combined story elements with sort of hooks that people can relate to is, I think, a real strength that you have.
Thanks. Well, yeah, I can talk about that. I'm not trying to brush the questions off. It's just that if I don't have a strong opinion on something, I'm not going to give these people who paid good money a bullshit answer. I'll speak on things I feel compelled to speak on, but I won't invent answers to every question. That's super annoying when I watch interviews and the guy being interviewed, has an opinion on everything. He's just clearly making up as he goes. I'm only going to give you thoughts on things I feel I can be of service on. I moved to New York and I sought out the help of Ken Weber. He wrote this book called Maximum Entertainment, which is a must-read book. It's a phenomenal book, among the best-selling magic books in the last decade, and an important book you'll read again and again. And he was very kind and said some favorable things about me. Really controversial book because he called out magicians by name and criticized them. Bill Malone, Max Maven. Didn't say they were bad magicians, but literally called out what he didn't like and what he liked about their performances. Anyway, he's a great guy, a very scholarly figure in magic and mentalism. And he directed my one-man show, and he's worked with me on a lot of things. And you talk about engaging presentations. Scripting, I consider to be essential. There's nothing I've shown you today, from the quickest card move to the longest things like Hitchcock and any card, any number. There's nothing I've shown you that isn't scripted. I'm speaking with deliberate words that I chose long ago, mulled and stressed over with a guy who knows a lot more than I do about scripting, and chose for specific reasons. And typically Ken's response when I send him or show him a new script is, great, now we'll do it again, half as long. So how do you create an engaging presentation? That's a long answer, but one tip I can give you is editing severely. Every line that has stayed in the show and made it to this lecture has stayed in when other lines have been cut and cut out. And that's really helped, I think, make the presentations more interesting because they're edited down to their irreducible minimum. Okay.
That was a great answer.
Okay.
Can you give any tips on how to make a card trick, which is sort of inherently small, play to a very large audience?
I did a show on Friday night, last Friday, for something called the Angel Auction, which is in my hometown, raises money for a hospital. And I think there were just under 1,000 people there in like an arena, imagine like Nationwide here in town, like that kind of room, but just the floor, round seats, and they did have good camera work so they could zoom. But I got on a big stage 50 feet from the nearest spectator, and did my map act, which is how I end my one-man show. It's a multiple selection that references every card I find in a different style based on a different country. I'll find yours the way they find it in France, do a fancy cut. I'll find yours the way they do in Argentina, where there's a one-handed magician, and I find it with one hand. I'll find yours the way they do in Germany, where there's a lot of mentalism, blah, 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 blah. Every one, and I reference the map. And then the last one, I shoot the cards at the map, and the last card, which has a corner missing, goes through the glass, right? So this is my little act. Typically, I do it for 50 people, 75, sometimes 100. I did it there for 1,000 people. And the reason it worked was, one, because they had decent video, and two, because if you use the space you're given, I think you can make anything bigger. And the easel went further away from me. The people I used went further away, but it became a bigger sort of thing. And I was really pleased. I was wondering myself if it would go over for that many people, if I should have brought different material. But it went over very well because you can make things bigger and you can sort of play up the bigness of them. And from all the way over there, from the back of the room, please call up your card. That's what I thought. You know what I mean? These sorts of things can be made bigger.
So it sounds like using the space that you're given to
Yeah.
the maximum is,
Absolutely.
is it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was my idea.
2 last questions.
2 last questions and then one more trick.
You mentioned your injury that you had, or
Yeah.
your accident that involved lots of injury, specifically with your hand. Did you learn any good hand exercises that could help magicians who may or may not have an injury with the strength of their hand?
Well, strength building wasn't the priority. It was like getting some movement back. When I started physical therapy, they gave me a nut with a bolt, and you try and, because you use these muscles and these fingers to do it. And the first goal, I forget, it was a month or 6 weeks, was to be able to touch my thumb to my finger. And you can't imagine, like, the horror. I remember my mom was sobbing because she thought I was going to never do, because they were like, okay, try and touch your thumb to your finger. And it was like, I am trying. I'm literally doing what I do in my head to touch them together, and nothing's moving. And then, hours and hours, and you can get this, and it's extremely painful, and then it's this, and then slowly it's, you have to try and pick up objects like this, and slowly you get to there, and, then it's like, you can finally do it. But the crazy thing was I had an incredible bounce back. I had a bounce back that the doctor said he was not anticipating. He thought I would not have much use of my hand, not just because of the nerves, but because of the break. It was it was a mess of a break. I mean, my wrist was there were fragments everywhere, like the x-rays. I show the x-ray in my show when I do a piece about, and the x-ray is just frightening. But the magic, the idea of working with, most people, they say, okay, for 1 hour we're going to do this, and then they go back to sleeping and watching movies. I mean, I'm a tinkerer. We're magicians. This is what we do. So I was getting in without realizing it, 4 or 5 hours a day of therapy. So I was beating the goals that, they wheel you in and you do this therapy. And the nurses were like, what have you been doing all day? Well, sitting there with a deck of cards trying to get it back,
So that's really funny. So it's like the opposite thing happened rather than the therapy
Right.
helping you get back
So
to
the
magic.
magic was the therapy in some sense.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, last question. You have created and published more stuff than most people ever learn.
It's a lot.
Do you have any tips for how to record your ideas? Do you keep notebooks? Do you record yourself with a recorder? Do you videotape yourself? Do you have a library of everything sort of indexed by year?
So, I can speak to this because I have a system. And maybe this will be helpful to you and maybe not. And this is the reason for the system. Like most people, I used to travel with a little notebook. And the problem is I lost my bags one time. and I lost 2 years worth of ideas. And it's like, if you're absent-minded like me, you know, you're never going to remember them. And that's, I mean, it's still, I grieve. It's the 2 years of ideas and notes and drawings and clippings and horrible still. So I thought the first lesson was never take note, like don't get so attached to some beautiful, expensive leather-bound notebook because you will lose it. And it's better to have a bunch of little notebooks so you lose less. So here's the system I came up with. I wish I brought it. I didn't bring it here. I have it. But anyway, I digitize all the notes that I had. And I organize them. This I'm going to sound like such a dork. I organize them by topic. Card tricks. Ideas for stage show. New lecture ideas. Greeting card magic. You know, illusion idea. Whatever. I mean, 50 or 60 items that would be like chapters if it was a book. And then I, of course, like have a little table of contents that links to the page and you number them. And I pad it like in a Word document with blank pages after the parts that I've written up so that I can draw, so I can print them all, bind them, and now I have a physical notebook that I can take into the woods or on a walk and write in and draw arrows on and draw illustrations on. But after every 3 or 4 months when those blank pages get filled up, I update it, change the date on the front page that has my address and everything in case it gets lost, update it. So now it's all digital. So now if I lose that notebook, all I ever could possibly lose is a couple weeks worth of stuff since the last time I updated it. Andy Gladwin thinks I'm crazy. He's like, you have an iPad and a laptop. Just keep them in the computer. But I still prefer to write them out. That's why, and have it printed. So I kind of do the hybrid thing.
That's amazing. That's great. And then just as far as like your just the history of your work, do you keep that in like a big database or something?
No. I mean, you know, people ask me what my favorite trick is. It's the one I'm working on. I don't really dwell in the past. I mean, I don't have a lot of my books even in my apartment. I have Rune's World in a very prominent place because I admire him a lot, and I'm very proud of that book. I think that book's great, and I'm proud to have written it. But I keep Magic: The Complete Course because I'm also very proud of that. But I don't keep a lot of my stuff around. You know, I mean, I don't need a shrine to myself, really. So I don't keep it, yeah.
All right, that concludes the Q&A
Q&A,
portion
one more
of
trick.
this.
Yeah. Let's see what framing you got. Let's leave it on this camera, and you can maybe zoom in just a tiny bit. That's good right there. So we've come a long way. Thanks for watching so much. I want to give some gifts away to some people for helping. I've got 3 coins here, $50. The first one will be for you, Ben. Thanks for helping tonight. No thanks? Fine, we'll continue. This one will be for you guys over here. Thanks for watching so much. And the last one will be for you guys at home. That's for everybody. That's it. All right. So, whether or not you're in the audience or at home, grab a quarter or a $50 or something. Everybody grab a coin, and we'll learn this together right now. Here we go. Can you see over here? Can we go to this camera? Great. I'll do it again from different angles so you guys can see it. Here's the first one. Just 2 left. Second one. There. And the last one. Go on. In case you don't know, it's going under the watch. So if you don't have a watch, I'm selling watches at... No, I'm just kidding. So you need a watch to do this. If you don't have a watch on, that's cool because you can still use your sleeves. If you don't have sleeves, still follow along because when you get home, you can try it. And I want to make sure you get the actions right. This is one that you have to be sort of following along for so you don't forget the actions. So hiding a coin under a watch is kind of an old idea, but I've updated it to the way I handle it. Ivan Lewig from Norway has a similar handling, but this is how I do it. So You hold the coin from above between the thumb and first finger where the other finger is lined up beneath. Your left fingers point toward the ceiling. You want to get close on here? That's beautiful. So all that's going to happen is as you put the coin at the base of the left fingers, the third, fourth, and fifth fingers stay in the left hand as the first finger and thumb continue down the wrist and tuck the coin under the watch. Now stop right here for a second. I realize at home and in the studio right now, everybody's thinking, oh man, everybody will see this. But look at my hands, because what I'm seeing is what you're seeing. From the front and from the gentle sides, you can't see that. It actually looks great. So you have to conquer your fear of what that looks like and just remember that if you put that in and snap, that's the next part, snap, and keep the right hand here, up here, that's kind of your bait. When you show the left hand empty, where does everybody's eyes go? This hand, so that when you show this hand empty, you know you got him. All right? So let's go over that again. You're showing your hands otherwise empty, just the one coin. Put it in the hand, stick it under, snap. Show the left hand empty like this, not like that, like this. Everybody looks here and you show that it's gone. And really be brisk about that because there are all these vanishes like on the head or on the back of the hand and they're great, but what do you do now? Thank you. You know? You're stuck. So this is a really great one because when you're done, you really are clean. Now I want to let the camera come really close because you really have to see the detail on this. See? Goes into the hand. I'll show you. I don't rush it, but I do move very quickly to do it. Okay? Yeah. From the front. Okay. Now don't think of this as just the trick that I showed you. Remember, this can be used to clean up any coin trick you're already doing. Almost every coin trick, from matrix to coins across to anything that you can think of, Charming Chinese Challenge, leaves you with a coin palmed, leaves you with an extra coin. So what better way, instead of ending with a coin palmed, than to end completely clean? And if you open your hands, you'll find that fourth coin in your hand, right? So it totally cleans you up. Now, you'll practice that. You'll get it down, I have faith. But let's talk about cleanups. I'm going to teach you two ways to clean it up. The first way is this one. There have been a million coin and silk moves, right? Some from Down's palm, complicated palms, dropping left hand to the right to produce the coin and all this crazy stuff, right? And then there have been an equal amount of moves with the handkerchief where you have like a pocket sewn in it or something. I think I have created the easiest one ever. Borrowed handkerchief, two clearly empty hands, and instantly a coin production. Okay? So it's a really pretty production. I mean, don't underestimate that. I think that's a strong thing. The second one is this. After you do this vanish, it's a really strong moment. Don't give it away. Don't mess with this and be in a hurry to clean it up. Instead, change the moment. Thank you very much. All right, let's try something else with Ben. Ben, take this deck of cards, shuffle it up. I'll turn away. I want you to take any card out of the deck. It can be any one you want. In the next trick, you just simply take it out like we did with the bill earlier, 3 hours ago. And you do that and take it, and here you go. And please place them in the box, and I'm home free, right? So that's two ways of cleaning it up. The last thing I want to talk about is how to do it with 3 coins. To do it with 3 coins, you need 2 specialty coins. You can find them both at Penguin, I'm sure. An expanded shell that fits over any $50, and what looks like a normal coin. It can be manipulated like a normal coin, But anytime you want, this coin opens up into two. This is a flipper. Invented by Bob Swadling in the 60s, so called because it flips closed. Okay, that's a flipper coin. You can do amazing things with a flipper coin. You can show two coins and to pretend to take one and it disappears. You can do a mid-air vanish where you throw two up and only one comes down. Or you can do this. This is gorgeous if you can get close enough to see this. You can do a coins through table where you have two, empty hand, the other coin hand goes beneath the table and you do that. And it goes right through. That looks amazing, right? If you combine a flipper with a shell, it is the perfect illusion. Let me get close. It is the perfect illusion of three coins. I mean, three edges. You can see all three are different edges. You have different milling, the tails, backs. I mean, no matter how close you get, that looks perfect. From the other side, it looks like crap. But you don't show that side. So you have it here. Now, forget method for a second, guys. Just think about effect. What would it look like if you could do real magic? That's a great way to start from a presentational standpoint, too. Most of the time, when we're doing these techniques, the coin magicians, they do this kind of stuff and put it here and it disappears, and then I take it here and put it back there and put it... But if you could really do real magic, you wouldn't do any of that. You'd simply take the coin and make it disappear. But of course, then you'd have a coin in palm. You'd have to be very careful how you show these two coins. But I really have exactly what I'm supposed to have, just the two coins. So when you go to take the second one, you usually have to change methods because now you have to put the second coin in a different palm so it doesn't talk against the first one, right? But I take the second coin the same way I took the first one. No transfers, it just melts away. Now normally you'd have the two different palms, so your hand would be like locked. But I have exactly what I'm supposed to have, one coin. And of course the last one is always the weakest, right? Thank you, thank you. Right? But now the last one is the best and leaves you clean. And there are people that say to me sometimes, yeah, that looks really great, but I would never do that. Why not? Well, because I don't use gaffed coins. Why not? Well, because afterward, I don't like the fact that you can't pass them out to be examined. But after three, there's two, then one, and then what's left to be examined? Happy birthday, nothing. So it's the one you can use guilt-free because you do start with gaffs, but you end up cleaned up from them, okay? So here's what to do. Here's how you do this thing. A flipper you grab by Kennedy's neck, sometimes it's his head, and you give a gentle shake, and it opens up. That's the flipper. Shell goes in front and below like that. This is based a lot on my good friend Troy Hooser. He did a lot of work with the flipper and the shell in the 80s and kind of inspired me to start thinking about it. So all that happens is, if you can get a close-up here, you're going to lay these coins on the left hand almost like a table and let them open like this as you pull away, and that's how you show the first one. Gone. Show separately the flipper and the shell. As you go to take the second one, you nest the flipper into the shell and show the second one. Then you can show just one coin left, and of course the last one you know, and it leaves you clean. So, when I was talking about the injury earlier, when I had the last surgery, the surgeon came out when I woke up, takes the bandage off and explained what he did. And it was, they don't know what they're going to do until they open it up and assess the situation. So he opens me up here, which is healed pretty well. I've had a surgery to cover up a lot of it. But he said, okay, it was a little worse than we thought. So I put in a plate, a large plate that's going to go across your whole wrist. You got 5 screws and 2 long pins about this long that are permanently affixed in there. And I was on a lot of drugs at the time, and I just remember thinking, this is how much I'm thinking about magic all the time. I just remember in that moment when you're finding out your life has changed, you have hardware in your hand now, I just remember thinking, oh man, I should have told him to put a magnet in there. Can you imagine? No watch? You guys would be so fooled with a magnet in there, but it wasn't to be. So yeah, so that ends up there. I showed you how to clean it up. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. The lecture's been full of things that I use, things that I've tried to pick examples, tricks that I can show you process. I know it wasn't a question I could answer off the bat, but I hope I have shown you some process. I hope it's been a good mix of easy and difficult, stage and close-up, impromptu and prepared, card, non-card. I hope you've got something out of it. My email address is joshua@joshuaj.com. I welcome questions. I answer all emails myself. No question is stupid, so I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for everybody who was here. Thanks to Ajar for having me.
Can we get a big round of applause for Joshua J? Dude, thanks. You are like the Michael Jordan of lecturing.
Okay.
If that is
that's a huge compliment. 'Cause
You
I
are like a
Michael Jordan.
world-class athlete of magic.
All
It's
right.
awesome. This was
Thank
phenomenal.
you.
And the funny thing is, like, I've known you now for somewhere between like 6 and 8 years, right? So even when I was introducing you, I forgot all of the things that you've accomplished. You know, like for example, just throughout this lecture, like I just like, oh, I should have mentioned you had a nationally published and marketed book in every bookstore from here to California, you know, and then I was like, oh yeah, like oh he's in Magic Magazine every month. He publishes in the Magic Magazine. I'm like, oh, it's like you do so much, I can't even keep it in my brain, you know. It's awesome. So
Well,
thank you. I mean, this has been a real honor. So
No, thanks.
thank you
thanks
for joining
having me.
us, and
It's
thank
been
you for
great.
sharing. You've been so generous with your work and your
Of course.
ideas and everything. This is really phenomenal. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody here. Thank you, everybody at home, for supporting Live Magic, for coming out to Penguin Live. And thank you. We're working really hard to bring live magic to you. So hopefully we can make this a regular thing. Thank you again. Everybody have a great night. Thanks.